Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle, let my spirit carry me. I wanna fly. Fly right into the... Oh, let me put this. Yeah.
I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati.
All right. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the Sabby and JB show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. Sorry, I was not here last night. I gave an announcement at my previous live stream that I wouldn't have a show this Thursday night because I did have scheduled plans. But I'm back now, and it is Super Bowl weekend. So I hope everybody is getting ready for the Super Bowl. And if you're wondering who I am going to be cheering on, you can look no further. What color is my shirt? What color is my shirt? Fly like an eagle to the sea. Fly like an eagle. Let my spirit carry me. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I will be supporting the Eagles. I already had this convo with my comrade Nick over at RBN because he is in Kansas City. And of course, he is a Chiefs fan. But I got to support the Eagles because I do feel like the Chiefs have been winning quite frequently over the past 5 years. So I want to give that push to the Eagles, even though they did beat us. They did beat the Patriots with Nick Foles. But we came back and got that one more win with Brady. So I'm all right. But I am going to be cheering on the Eagles. I think, they have a new quarterback since Nick Foles. And I really want them to go out and get this win. Plus, KC, they'll be fine. They'll be back next year, right? They'll be back next year. So I'm telling you, that's who I will be supporting. So I don't know what you guys are doing for the Super Bowl, but I'm super pumped about that. You know, I love my football. Tonight's theme is shut the door. And that can apply in different ways when we get to these stories. In one way, I could be asking them to shut the door. In another way, a door may have already been shut. And you'll see when we get to tonight's stories. I do want to go ahead and give shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go on. Hey. Shout out to Mr. Ali says, hey, Sabby. Greetings, Scott. What about all the money laundering the Democrats did through U.S. aid? We already covered that, Scott. Covered that story a couple days ago. I think the clip posted earlier today, but I covered the live stream a couple days ago. Greetings, Robert. Trump believes tariffs are some kind of magical panacea for everything that ails the American economy, but taxing the consumer just increases prices. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Color in My Rainbow. Thank you for speaking about the barbaric persecution of Richard Medhurst. Fascism has truly landed. Yeah, the story about Richie, we'll get to that. It's crazy, but it is a warning of, you know, what's to come. And we've been seeing like these high levels of not just censorship, but the way that the police state is going after journalists, which of course I'm heavily against. Greetings, Brian. MAGA has become Miggy. America implementing Greater Israel. I hear you. Thank you, Tim. Come on, Brie. Stop with the what can we do to make the Dems better BS. It ain't gonna happen. They work for their donors, period. The American people, a joke. Tear down the duopoly. Love you, Sabs. That's right. Go ahead and answer that poll, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get to that later on in the show. But that story is really important. And I'll tell you why when we get to that. Greetings, New York Varsity. Allow me to be the first to say, shooby dooby doo, let's go. What's up? Greetings, Lawrence says, free Palestine. Let's give a special shout out to Bohemian Soul for becoming a Sabby member. Give Bohemian a big whoop whoop in the house. Greetings, Atole says, happy Friday, y'all. Shout out to Hannah says, sup. Greetings, Kimi says, roll that beautiful doobie dooby doo music. Shout out to Oh My Days says, hey, chat. Hey, oh my days. Greetings, Crom says, happy Friday, Sabby. Shout out to Mary Beth Rockwell. Happy weekend, peeps. Hello, Sabby and Eric. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. What's up, Bill Bobby? Consider the source as always, but Sean Ryan had a lady that left the DNC on his show. Some juicy bits in that interview. She seems sincere. Lindy Lee. Yes. If it's the same person I'm thinking about, I believe she was also on Piers Morgan's show. She's been kind of making the rounds. Greetings, Miranda says, hello, everyone, and happy Friday. What's up? Shout out to Abu says, Alhamdulillah. Shout out to Mark says, Sabby. Greetings, Trell says, Sabby. Shout out to Pirate Smurf. I love that name. Says Scott, Ryan, Jeff. I love the Smurf. I can do can I do it? The Gark, what is it? I can't do Papa Smurf. No, I didn't do it right. Gargamel. I used to be able to do the Smurf voice really, really well. I used to love the Smurfs, by the way. I'll tell you a story about that. At one point, my uncle called me Smurfette and it didn't go well. Shout out to Anonymous says, it's all about the Benjamin's baby Ilhan Omar. Greetings, Eric. Our poll respondents are not feeling the joy. Greetings, Joe says, love you, Sabby. What's up, Cloudness says, oh no, not this piece of garbage again. OG Hawk 2 can't get enough bad publicity. SMFH. Oh my God. Shout out to Vanessa says, I love you, Sabrina. Love you too. Greetings, Kimmy says, hey, Sabby. Happy Friday to Miss Sabby and Eric Chatters. What's up? Shout out to Dwayne is in the house, says doobie doobie doo. Greetings. Shout out to Beyond Ebony says doobie doobie doo from Bmore. Baltimore is in the house. What's up, Beyond Ebony? Shout out to Bruni is from Michigan. All right, we got people all over. Greetings, Khalif says the best channel. Sabby, also Brie. What's up, fam? What's up? Greetings. Miranda says I prefer the Puppy Bowl. I don't think they do that anymore. I think that received a lot of criticism. So I don't think they do the puppy bowl. I have to double check because I don't think they did that last year, but I'll check on that. Shout out to Arias says, should I have sex with Mark if it makes my ex mad? Arias. Who is Mark? And who's the ex? What is going on? I don't know what's happening, Arias. I'm not going to give you advice on that one. Okay, Eric said the puppy bowl is alive and well. Oh my God, Arias. Arias asking the audience, like, what should I do? Oh God. Oh, thank you, Sunlight. Alhamdulillah means thank God in Arabic. It's part of Muslim prayer. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you. Oh, Aries, honey, I don't know about that one. I can't give you advice on that one. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. And honey, who is Mark? All right. Shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators. Don't forget about the Sabsters. They're doing the damn thing. We also have a group called Sabbies. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I'm not looking at the comments, the responses to areas. Oh my God. And of course, we also have members. Thank you guys so much. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the ticker at the bottom of the screen. We want to give a shout out to a new Sabby patron. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Simonette Jones. That's an interesting name. Thank you so much, and welcome to all of you. Oh my God. We're already starting off with Dwayne says no. Dwayne says no, Arius, don't do it. Don't do it. Okie dokie. Let's get to the super chats and then we'll get into the stories we're going to cover tonight. Thank you, Perry. Even before South Africa, we sanctioned Zimbabwe and killed Lumumba in Ghana. You go. Thank you, Donnie. Hi, Sabby. I just wanted to ask if I can reach out to Palestinian and Lebanese about the earthquakes happening in Greece. If any major quake occur in Santorini, Greece. I haven't heard about that, but I'll look into that. Interesting. And thank you for this as well, Donnie. If a major earthquake occurs in Greece, it could cause a tsunami that will impact Gaza and Lebanon. That is interesting. I'll have to check. God knows they definitely, with everything else happening, they definitely don't need an earthquake at all. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the stories we are going to discuss tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and roll that beautiful bean footage. We have so much to get into tonight. Oh, buddy, we actually have 6 stories tonight. Tonight, we are discussing Breonna Joy Gray pushes back on the DNC. This is an interesting conversation here. I think Brie really held her own in that conversation. And one of the things that I do want to add is I think that there was obviously a little, it seemed like a little bit of tension like during that discussion, but I think Brie held her own and stood firm with that. The Democratic Party is just not, it's not the way anymore. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't heard about this, Richie Medhurst searched. Yes, Richie Medhurst was arrested a couple of months ago, and now he has been searched. We're going to get into that particular story. It is very obvious that there is a target out there on Richie Medhurst. So we'll get into that. We're also going to discuss Donald Trump has backlash about his Gaza statement. That picture is it. Damn, that picture is something. We're going to get into that. He's receiving a lot of backlash, and you might be surprised who one of the people are that are giving him backlash about that. Wait till you see who that is. We're also going to discuss CNN pivots on Gaza. Oh, yes, that's Anderson Cooper. Now, all of a sudden, they got other things to say. we're going to get into that and the attack that has come from Blue MAGA. Along with that story, we're also going to discuss, if you have not heard, CBS has released the unedited interview from 60 Minutes that Kamala Harris had. We are going to show some of the parts that have been removed that I think you need to see, right? So obviously this isn't legal. Like, you can't do that. And they did it to protect Kamala. And tonight you're going to see what her real answers were about situations that you guys really care about. And last but not least, we are going to discuss this issue with this content creator called Ian Carroll, who has very much been exposed by Nico. Nico House is out there doing the damn thing, but also many of us had our suspicions about him earlier on. So we have those stories that we're going to dive into tonight. So let's hop on to it. Ain't nothing do it but to do it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Nothing to it but to do it. Again, the theme tonight is shut the door. Either they have shut the door or I'm asking them to shut the door. So we will get into that tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Before we get started with our first story, if you haven't done so, smash that like button. Thank you very much. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. And let's dive into the first one, fam. The first one. Every now and then, there is a content creator that appears out of nowhere and just automatically rises and surges very quickly, even though they are talking about controversial issues that have caused other people to either be even more suppressed or suspended or targeted. And I've always said before, whenever you see someone come out of nowhere and they have no name recognition, they're not a public figure, and they blow up very quickly, particularly on X, formerly known as Twitter, and they are heavily focusing on a controversial topic that has caused other creators to get suppressed or suspended, there is something up with that person. And the person that we're talking about tonight is Ian Carroll. This guy kind of came out of nowhere. If you're not on Twitter or if you're not on TikTok, you may not be as familiar. But many of us had been saying all along that we thought there was something up with this particular creator. I know a number of people that have been suspended. Garland Nixon has been locked out of his Twitter account by Twitter for months, still cannot get back into his Twitter account. Prominent voice there. I know a number of people that had their blue checks removed from Twitter for heavily talking about Israel and advocating for, solidarity for the Palestinian people. And I'm talking about accounts that solely talk about that. Well, Ian Carroll's account was no different. Ian Carroll started on TikTok and apparently did really well on TikTok. And all of a sudden comes over to Twitter talking about the same issues that these other accounts have been suspended or severely suppressed. And while they are being deflated, his account just all of a sudden starts continuing to grow tremendously to the point where he gets over 1 million subscribers on Twitter. Now, there are people that that are public figures who are on Twitter that don't have 1 million followers. Brianna Joy Gray doesn't have 1 million followers. Katie Halper doesn't have 1 million followers. Kyle Kalinske, I've double checked, but I don't think even Kyle Kalinske has 1 million followers on Twitter. And these are prominent names. These are people that, particularly if you're in the political YouTube space, you are very much aware of, and they are active on Twitter. So we get into this Ian Carroll situation, and we got to give a shout out here to Nico House because he broke this down like nobody's business. When we talk about shutting the door, we need to dive into these creators who come out of nowhere and all of a sudden are amplified quickly to get to 1 million followers. You always have to be suspicious about that. So Nico House broke this down for Hotspot. It seems like Trump's announcement to take over Gaza exposed the grift of journalist communicator Ian Carroll. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why did the algorithm boost a former pro-Palestine supporter to 1 million followers in a year? Is he a Fed? You be the judge. Let's go ahead and dive in. I think this is probably one of Nico's best. Check this out.
Trump's recent announcement to finish the ethnic cleansing of the Gaza Strip might have exposed something a little bit more sinister going on behind the scenes, like this weirdo Ian Carroll. Now, we all know Trump got those loyalists who, even if they're on the right side of an issue at a certain point, will flip the moment Trump takes the opposite side. Like what Andrew Tate did here, and then block my boy Nick for calling him out for doing so. Basically, Nick calls him out for being a Trump meat writer because Tate said that he's gonna give Trump the benefit of the doubt without any logic, without any context or reason as to why we should give him the benefit of the doubt. And it's even more egregious because Andrew Tate has actually been firmly in the pro-Palestine camp. And it's
Pause there. Andrew Tate is one of the ones that he points out here. Yes, Andrew Tate did block my comrade Nick from RBN because what we have seen is, and we called this, that some of these accounts that were heavily, pro-Palestine and calling out Biden and Kamala during their administration about what is happening in Gaza. We had a prediction that some of these accounts were not going to do the same if Trump were to win. And we were right. And what Nick saw with Andrew Tate was that very same thing. Now, all of a sudden, Andrew Tate has no problem. Let's just sit back and wait and see what happens. No problem with Donald Trump saying the U.S. is going to take over Gaza. But he had a problem with Israel last year saying that they wanted all the Palestinians out and they wanted to take over Gaza. Now, all of a sudden, that it's under Trump's administration, they have no problem with that. Say whatever you want about me, but I've been consistent. When I criticized Israel under Biden and Kamala, I criticized Israel under Donald Trump's administration as well. When I criticized Biden and Kamala for their support of Israel, I've criticized Donald Trump for his support of Israel as well. In fact, before Donald Trump even took the White House, I criticized basically his entire cabinet for being pro-Israel. So that's being consistent. And what you are starting to see is that some people are not consistent. And some of these people were actually Trump supporters. And maybe it wasn't so much that they cared so much about the Palestinians. They were just riding a wave. Pay attention to that. Let's continue.
Called out Israel religiously. Now, Tate is the only Trump supporter that came out of nowhere and all of a sudden flipped his stance on Palestine the moment that Trump came out and said that the U.S. has plans to take over the Gaza Strip. It's like my friend Misty says here. It's like a narrative went out to all the major shill accounts and they're following their order. But I gotta be fair, it's not all MAGA people, because this guy, Ian Smith, was extremely critical of Trump's decision, saying that he's not fucking dying for Israel. Comedian and political pundit Dave Smith comes out and says that he cannot overstate how awful this guy's idea is. And yeah, he voted for Trump too. Bro, even Candace Owens, shortly after Trump made this announcement, retweeted something calling out the Israeli lobby's control over the US government and not tweeting out a single word of support after the announcement was made. So not everybody got the script, but I'll tell you who did. This motherfucker right here, Ian Carroll. A person who many would probably say could contribute his success to his pro-Palestine advocacy over the last year or so. And now I'm going to explain to y'all what I meant at the beginning of the video when I said it seems to be a little bit more nefarious than what people think. Like this is something that might have been planned long before any of us were even thinking about Trump coming in and announcing that we're going to take over Gaza. So after consistently calling out the genocide for a little over a year, Trump announces his plan, and Ian all of a sudden is like, you know what? I think ethnic cleansing is actually okay.
Actually okay. And this is what Ian said. Oh, the benefits to the U.S. would be incalculable, from the profits of rebuilding to the oil and gas resources in the area, to defanging Israel and breaking their monopoly on the global narrative, to have an even more American military. He goes on to say that American military presence. So now all of a sudden, this account that was heavily against all this when Biden and Kamala were in office, now that Trump is in office and he's saying, yes, let's go ahead and take the land in Gaza. Now all of a sudden, he sees this as a good thing. Now all of a sudden, military intervention is a good thing. Now all of a sudden, land theft is a good thing. Now all of a sudden, there's no problem with it. So what you're seeing, and people called this out last year. They were like, I think this dude could be an op. And it was pretty obvious to anyone that was paying attention. And so Nico even called it out then. He said, this man is an op. And I've said this before, guys, you do not grow on Twitter that quickly to 1 million subscribers with no name recognition. You just don't, unless somebody is helping you out. And that someone would be Elon Musk. It goes on.
I think ethnic cleansing is actually okay. He puts out a tweet and even a follow-up video saying that, yeah, man, we should definitely send troops to Gaza because that would stabilize the region. And also, this could have huge economic benefits for the United States. And also, I don't see another solution. How else are we going to stop the violence? Maybe Trump's plan isn't that bad. And I'm going to show you how easily that argument is deconstructed. But first, let's deconstruct Ian. Who the fuck is this man? Ian Carroll, who showed up to Twitter in May of 2023 out of nowhere with zero credentials and somehow amassed 1.1 million followers and is religiously promoted by the algorithm, despite previously being on the pro-Palestine side of the argument. And we know.
And another thing I want to point out, if you look at his page, it says follow the money, seek the truth. So he's on this, I'm trying to seek the truth and find out the truth, like, you know, like kind of energy. And there are people who are investigative journalists that actually do that, like Whitney Webb, right? Like she does that. She tries to find the truth. Glenn Greenwald tries to find the truth. The Gray Zone tries to find the truth. And then there's people like Ian who use that I'm trying to find the truth motto to run cover for protecting the goals on the right. Because if you're trying to get to the truth and you have an issue with military intervention and you have an issue with Palestinians losing their land, and if you have an issue with the pro-Israel argument, you would still have those issues regardless who was president of the United States. It's the people that make the pivot. And this is what I've been pointing to for quite some time. I told you guys, come Trump's presidency, you are going to see people make a shift. And it's funny because some people said, oh, that's going to be you guys at RBN are going to kiss Trump's ass and and all this kind of stuff. And you're not even going to talk about Gaza. But we're still talking about it, not kissing his ass. And they're the ones who are making the pivot. So pay close attention to this. There are people that are purposely just trying to go in an angle where they can make a lot of money. And that's what this really comes down to.
Oh, being pro-Palestine generally gets you banned, suspended, or both, not boosted. Who is this Ian Carroll that has 1.7 million TikTok followers in a little bit over a year and has a bunch of impersonators also with damn near tens to hundreds of thousands of followers? Like this man is some well-known academic or researcher that everyone has been aware of for decades. Ian Carroll, who showed up out of nowhere in May of 2023, that ended up going on major podcasts immediately like Danny Jones. The dude gets invited to go on to Fox 11 Los Angeles to talk about the P. Diddy scandal. Dude is so present in the algorithm that he's literally getting reposted by Joe Rogan.
That one right there. This is the big mask off, right? Joe Rogan is reposting him, which Joe Rogan doesn't repost many people, especially someone you don't unknown. You know how many people have been in this space for years and have never been retweeted by Joe Rogan? Have never been even on Joe Rogan's show? I'm pretty sure if Ian keeps this up, it's probably heading in that direction. So people, these are the kind of things you have to start asking yourself. This person comes out of nowhere, jumps to 1 million subscribers while discussing Gaza, which a lot of people were doing, and they're being penalized for it, but he's not. He's not. Most of us on YouTube will be the first to let you know almost every video that discusses Israel or Gaza is demonetized. Almost every one of my videos. And this guy just seems to be, they're just pushing him up. That does not make any sense when the other accounts who've been talking about Palestine for so long are being suppressed, had their check marks taken away, or they were suspended. Now you tell me. You tell me what you think is going on. Huh?
By Joe Rogan. The Ian Carroll that started his YouTube channel around the same time he got on Twitter has only 830,000 views and only 33 videos, but somehow amassed almost 100,000 subscribers in that short amount of time with almost no viral videos.
No viral videos. So that's the other part. This is another thing you guys need to pay attention to. Again, if you were a prominent figure, like, for example, if you were a celebrity and you started a channel and you automatically jumped that quick, that's understandable. Everybody know who you are. And so you're going to get that increase very quickly, right? Like Shannon Sharp, right? When he started like Club Shay Shay or whatever, a lot of people know who Shannon Sharp is. He's a celebrity. So that makes sense. However, with Ian Carroll, that does not make sense. Another thing that I want to point out is that the algorithm doesn't transfer over to different platforms. What do I mean by that? People who often do very well on TikTok do not seem to have that same success on X or YouTube because the algorithms are different. In particular, some people I know that had a YouTube channel first, when they created a TikTok channel, they were able to go viral on TikTok, but they've never been able to go viral on YouTube. Again, different algorithm. The point that Nico makes here about not having any viral videos, that is really, even I've had some viral videos. So keep that in mind. These are the kind of things you want to watch for.
In case you were curious, that's not how YouTube math works. Not to mention the dude is transparently opportunistic. Like when dude had the opposite RFK Jr. experience, saying that RFK was dead to him after RFK's ridiculous comments supporting genocide in Gaza. And he actually even calls RFK a shill and says that's why people aren't voting for him. Only to turn around in March of 2024 to be like, yeah, actually, Kennedy is democracy. And I say the reverse RFK experience because he's the only pro-Palestine supporter that started supporting RFK after he announced his love for genocide. Like, we don't know who Ian Carroll is politically, and we don't know who he is at all before May of 2023. Go ahead, try it. Tell me anything at all about Ian Carroll. Don't worry, I'll wait. In 2025, one of the most popular political pundits on the internet has zero digital footprint from before he was famous. And that's not suspicious to y'all.
And we need to see what this account said. This is Polly St. George. Ian Carroll says an account that grew to 125K followers since joining X in November 2023 could well be a professional intel agency operation. Ian Carroll has 817,000. That was before he got to 1 million followers, and he joined in May of 2023. So pay attention, right? Sometimes they tell you who they are ahead of time.
Was famous, and that's not suspicious to y'all. He's an op. I mean, bro, if you look at the mustache and the hairdo, the dude looks like CIA Barbie. And not to mention the arguments that he makes now directly contradict the arguments that he made before. And sure, it's very possible that he's just a cloud chaser, an engagement farmer. He's going to say whatever he can to get as many followers as he can. But like Missy said, the script went out and he seems to be following it to a T. David Icke encapsulates it beautifully here. He says that this bloke has never seen a Trump policy he didn't want to support, and so often on the basis of better of two evils, I don't like it, or it's the only way. Who is this guy, and why do the algorithms love him? Y'all know the last time someone came out of nowhere and became extremely popular in a short amount of time, despite constantly contradicting his own opinion? This guy, Vaush, the pedo FBI agent. The same Vaush who, like Ukraine, got caught begging for money after the USAID got shut down, because we know what the USAID is used for: government propaganda. So no, I can't say for sure who Ian Carroll is or what his intentions or motives are, and I think that's probably the problem. I just know the guy arrived right before the elections and right before the genocide started, got popular because of the genocide, and all of a sudden has fallen in love with Trump and has started supporting ethnic cleansing that many people already believe has been in the plans for an extended period of time. And I'm just saying, if it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, He's a motherfucking op.
So I see myself more as a bridge than an actual journalist. I'm not really an investigative journalist. I'm a journalism communicator. Not really an investigative journalist. I'm a journalism communicator.
So we have to be very aware of the people who are pretending like they are truth tellers and that they are on the side of justice, that in the end they're not. And I want to show you something else. This is really important too, that Nico brought up. To be clear, Ian's brand was built on following the money, yet has never had anything to say about Peter Thiel. People, you can't find a penny on the ground that doesn't lead back to Thiel in some way. But here, Ian can't even bring himself to say Thiel's name. And I want to show you that here, because that is Derek Bros, who also works with Whitney Webb. And I want to show you this example. Listen to how many times Derek Bros says Peter Thiel's name. Listen to this.
And Peter Thiel, though, is a steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group. And that's another fact that I don't think we can just breeze past, just like with the genocide going on in Gaza. The Bilderberg Group has been immensely influential behind the scenes. And I know you know this, but for anybody else who's kind of woken up the last couple of years, just a decade ago, the Bilderberg Group was still a secret. They didn't have a public website. They didn't put out a list of topics and a list of people. It was journalists like Jim Tucker back in the day, Alex Jones a little bit in the early days as well, and then others who were literally showing up and finding the locations and going and confronting politicians and documenting, look here, this prime minister was here, this reporter was here, this person from, this organization or whatever, that exposed it to the point that they had to talk about it. And then you had Charlie Skelton, the only mainstream journalist at The Guardian who was reporting on it. He's still the only person who consistently does talk about it. But now the Bilderberg Group has a public face. They've got a website. They'll put their attendees out there and they put a very generalized list of topics, Russia, AI, Iran, whatever. But that would have never happened if it weren't for the work of activists and journalists exposing them. They are, I don't think they're the top of the pyramid, but they absolutely are representatives of whoever's behind them. And we know Kissinger was deeply involved until his death. And so the fact that you have steering committee members of the Bilderberg Group like Peter Thiel funding Donald Trump, and yes, to be fair, Eric Schmidt, former CEO of Google, funding Harris, and so Alex Karp, also steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group, co-founder of Palantir with Peter Thiel, also funding Harris. It's on both sides. It's, it's the Zionists and the Bilderberg technocrats are on both sides. So that's another, to me, a big piece of the picture is looking at Peter Thiel's influence. You could also look at how Peter Thiel essentially funded the rise of J.D. Vance. So if they do win and Trump retires, then Vance is next in line, right? And so Peter Thiel, steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, they continue to have that influence.
So notice how many times Derek Bros has mentioned Peter Thiel's name. And I want to reference this as well. A lot of the issues that Derek Bros and Whitney Webb talk about, they cannot talk about on YouTube, right? Like, so they don't have like a YouTube. I think they tried to have a YouTube channel and they were ultimately like shut down, right? So keep that in mind. Well, Ian talks about some of those same things. So how is it that he's able to come on YouTube and grow, but Whitney and Derek have been shut down? See, these are the kind of things that you need to ask, folks. Where do you hear his response, though?
Even post-Trump. So those are some of my major concerns as far as those two gentlemen, the sort of technocrat aspect of this.
It's a great point, and I think it's worth highlighting that, and I don't know if I've ever even gotten to say this on camera too, is that one of the biggest reasons why I have such respect for your work and for Whitney Webb's work and for several of these other journalists that are aligned with you guys is because you guys represent what real journalism is and always was and is desperately still needs to be, which is holding the powerful to account. All the powerful to account, not picking a side and saying I'm on Trump's side and I'm going to hold the other people to account. I'm on this side, I'm going to hold the other people to account, is reporting on all the powerful people and holding them all to account. And it's a very black pilling kind of a space to be in because the world is so effed right now. And it's A, it's not popular. B, you piss off everyone on every side. So it's like you don't, in this new world of likes and clicks and subscribers and, social media, it's a deeply unpopular place to be. And
So let's go ahead and stop there. I've listened to the whole thing. So he doesn't get into the Peter Thiel part at all. Doesn't want to mention his name for some reason. But to his own point that he just made there, that in this type of algorithm and talking about those things, like obviously it's going to be hard to get that traction when you're talking about those types of issues. So to that point, how is he able to get that traction? And why have Derek and Whitney been shut down? So pay attention to those types of things, right? Another thing that Nico brings up, I want to bring this up here as well. I think this is incredibly important. He's responding to someone else and said, yeah, I mentioned his TikTok following here, but you're correct. It's nearly impossible to unestablished creators to create a massive following on literally every single major platform. Hell, even if you're kind of established, you're lucky to get a huge following on two of the major ones, because not all algorithms are created equal. To have at least 100K to 1 million on everything from YouTube to TikTok and Twitter in less than a year is incomprehensible. 100%. He is correct. And these are the types of things I want you guys to pay attention to. Remember, not everybody who is coming forward to say they're going to speak truth to power is being genuine. Some of these people are trying, and now he's taking the same people that he was able to convince that, listen, the Palestinian people are being treated horrifically, and they are not, they don't have self-determination. They're being exploited, like Israel is trying to get rid of, they want to exterminate all of them, etc. You grab those people and got them to believe that view. Now Ian is taking those same people and convincing them to believe that Trump's idea of having the U.S. take over Gaza is actually a good thing and is beneficial. That puts his entire argument over the past year to BS. Because the reality is, you can't sit there under Biden and Kamala and say military intervention is a problem, land theft is a problem, genocide is a problem, what's happening to the Palestinians is a problem. But now that Trump is in office, you're okay with it. So do you see what he has done? He gravitated an audience, got that audience, got immediate boost on X when everybody else is being suppressed for talking about that exact same issue in the exact same tone. And then he took all those people and told them Trump is doing the right thing here. So these are the types of people that you have to be more cautious of. And like I told you before, anytime somebody grows that quickly and they're not a public figure, you need to start asking some damn questions. There are a number of us that have been on YouTube, Twitter, etc., and we did not grow overnight. I've been here since I started the show when 2021. And most of us I don't even have 100K on Twitter. And I tweet. So pay attention to those things. So in the essence of shutting the door, it's time to, if you have not done so, you need to shut the door on Ian Carroll. This guy is either an op, a fed, or something. Because nobody gets boosted through the algorithm in that way, talking about the things that he talked about, unless he's on the side of the opposition. Keep that in mind. What's that book? I thought you just got here. No, this show started in 2021. No, I've been here for a minute. All right. Let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you, Justin. Santorini Island is already completely evacuated and the volcano there is likely to have a large eruption. Tsunamis are a real possibility. That's interesting. I have to look into that. Shout out to Sophia Martinez for becoming a new member. What's up, Sophia? Give her a big whoop, whoop. Concerned citizen. Ryan Dawson talked about Ian Carroll stealing his work. There you go. What? There you go. Thank you, Nas. ENC is being propped up like Lex Friedman on YouTube. There you go. And Soul says, shut the door. Shut the door. Shut the door. Okay. All right, guys. Go ahead and smash the like button if you haven't had a chance to do so. And we're going to move on to our next story. One second. I have a scruff. Scruffy throat. Sorry. Okay. So this next story, this is interesting. You know, Donald Trump made that announcement that the U.S. is going to take over Gaza. Let's start with that, because I want to show you what's happening now. Crazy stuff.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job. Do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
So yeah, we talked about this, and I told you that is a hell no. That is displacement. I don't believe people should be displaced, and I'm heavily against that. But I told you that is a part of that greater Israel plan, that Israel does want to take Gaza and the West Bank and part of Syria and part of Lebanon as well. And that if we don't stop Israel, this is only going to get worse. And that was Trump there saying the quiet part out loud. And the reality is, if you are a Zionist and you do support Zionism, then you also support the greater Israel project, which I've been trying to get across to people for numerous months, I believe, actually over a couple years. But it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, some people are not too happy about that. And I don't mean just Democrats speaking out about it, but there's also Republicans that have come forward and have spoken out about this as well. Not necessarily because they disagree, but because Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. Because the reality is, if you are supporting AIPAC's vision, if you are supporting the vision that is Zionism, then you do support this greater Israel project. And this is the part that some people don't want to hear. I just had a back and forth with a former high school classmate of mine about this the other day, where he was like, this would have never happened under Democrats. I'm like, do you not understand that Kamala Harris is also a Zionist? Do you not understand that Kamala Harris she was recruited by AIPAC very early on, before she was a senator? Remember when she said on the stage that she always wanted to advocate for Israel ever since she was a little girl. So they get to people early, and I've been trying to explain this over and over, right? So again, if you are a Zionist, you do believe in the greater Israel project. Now, Democrats are not saying it out loud the way that Donald Trump did. So the problem came in that he said something that they all know behind closed doors, and now they're like, oh no, how do we stop that? How do we shut this door? So you're going to see this theater that is happening right now, where you do have a representative here, Representative Al Green. And I'm not talking about Al Green, the singer. Shame. But Representative Al Green here comes forward with this theater to show that now all of a sudden we care. Listen to this.
That I will bring articles of impeachment against the president for dastardly deeds proposed and dastardly deeds done. I also rise to say that the impeachment movement is going to be a grass-up movement, not a top-down. The people have got to move forward. The people have to demand it. And when the people that I will bring articles.
Okay, so what you see here is performative theater, right? Now, I want to explain this to you. So now you want to come forward and you want to bring articles of impeachment against Donald Trump because Donald Trump said the quiet part out loud. But there was no movement towards articles of impeachment against Joe Biden over the 15 months where he was allowing Israel to continue to kill these people in Gaza. So do you see how this works, folks? Now, all of a sudden that Republicans are in office, Democrats are like, oh, we're going to fight. And it's all theater because none of these people are trying to fight when the Democrats are in power and they are committing these horrific acts. They don't stand up to fight against it. I didn't see any type of impeachment movement towards Joe Biden to try to stop him from killing those damn kids. So that's what you got to understand. It's also performative because, of course, if you've been paying attention, you are aware that the Republicans have the House and the Senate. So bringing forward articles of impeachment isn't going to go anywhere. It's theater. And that's what I want everyone to understand. If people are not telling you this, they're not being honest with you. And you need to ask them why. But he is getting a lot of pushback against this. And honestly, he should. Everybody should be pushing back against it. But if you sat there quietly while the genocide is taking place and you said nothing against Biden or Kamala, but now all of a sudden you have something to say, you are a partisan hack. This is not about the Palestinian people for you. This is about the party and protecting your party. And you know who those people are. It's not just the politicians. It may be some of the people in your life. I have seen a number of people. Blue MAGA is on steroids right now. Blue MAGA is on steroids right now. And they are all going out. And now all of a sudden it's, oh my God, they can't do this to the Palestinian people. But when Biden was killing them, you had nothing to say. So these people are partisan hacks that don't give a damn. Now, because of the pushback, Donald Trump is saying something different. And I want you guys to see this. Now he tries to make it seem like it's not urgent. I don't know. We don't need to bring in the military or anything. Listen to this.
The deliberations on Gaza, sir, the timetable for a takeover?
No deliberations. It's been very well received, where basically the United States would view it as a real estate transaction where we'll be an investor in that part of the world. And no rush to do anything. We wouldn't need anybody there. It would be supplied and given to us by Israel. They'll watch it in terms of security. We're not talking about boots in the ground or anything, but I think the fact that we're there, that we have an investment there, I think would go a long way to creating peace. We don't want to see everybody move back and then move out in 10 years. This has been going on for 50 years, much more than that. We just want to see stability. That would be having us have that particular piece in that particular location, I think would show great stability and would lead to great stability in the area for very little money, very little price, and we wouldn't need soldiers at all. That will be taken care of by others. And the investments are taken care of by others also. So for no investment, I mean virtually no investment whatsoever, it would bring stability to the area, and others can invest in it later on. But we're in no rush on it. There's absolutely no rush.
So once again, you know that this is a lie when he says that this will bring stability to the area. It would not bring stability to the area. Every time the U.S. government gets involved in another country's affairs, it actually makes things more worse for the people who are there than it was before they got involved. So it wouldn't bring stability. Notice now there's the pivot from the U.S. troops to, other countries will supply the troops. In other words, Gaza would still be under occupation, right? And then pay attention to the rhetoric of the people in the region, right? The people in the region also applies to Israelis. Do you really think that the Likud party is going to want, or Israelis are going to want to live side by side with other Palestinians in Gaza? No. So what do you think is really going to happen here? And someone sent me this, and I have to read this. I'm not going to read their name because I honestly don't know if you want me to read your name, so I'm not going to do that. But someone did send me something, and I do want to read this to you guys. I think it's very important. That's this part here about the U.S. taking over the region. And this is something I didn't pay attention to, but they caught it. So thank you so much for catching this. If Donald Trump is saying the U.S. will take over the region. And if the Zionist dream is to have Israel become the greater Israel, because that's what it says in the Bible, according to them, then why aren't all of them upset when Donald Trump says the U.S. is going to take over the region? That's not biblical according to them. According to them, what's biblical is that they will have all of the land in the region, not that the U.S. would take a portion of the land. So if this greater Israel project is really about biblical prophecy, then they would push back on what Donald Trump is saying. But it's not about biblical prophecy. And this is the point I really want to drive home. It is an ethnic cleansing Zionist project. It is a supremacy project. And to the person who sent that to me, thank you so much for pointing that out, because you noticed something I think a lot of people didn't notice. So now do you guys see this really isn't about a biblical prophecy? We got to shut the door on all of that. All of that. Because again, according to them, the biblical prophecy doesn't say that the U.S. is going to come in there or that Christians are going to come take that part. No, it says the land belongs to them. According to them. I grew up in the church. The Bible has many different interpretations, and that was not the way that I read it. I also don't remember the Bible saying that European settlers were going to be able to take over I don't remember that. Now, even the White House press secretary, they're changing their tune a little bit. I want you to hear what she had to say here. Again, because he received pushback on this issue.
BBC, can you confirm that under the president's plans for Gaza, any and all Palestinians who want to stay in Gaza on their land will be allowed to do so?
I can confirm that the president is committed to rebuilding Gaza and to temporarily relocating those who are there, because as I've showed you repeatedly, it is a demolition site. There is no running water. There is no electricity. The president wants these individuals to live in peace. He is committed to doing that with this very bold new plan, and we will continue to keep you apprised of updates as we receive them. Ed Lawrence,
that's not an answer.
Yes, go ahead, Ed.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So do you see how they're trying to calm this down and say that this is a way to move towards peace? It's a demolition site and that there's no running water. By the way, before there was no running water, there was dirty water. Before there was no electricity, remember that Israel would turn the lights on and off. They don't mention that part. And when you talk about rebuilding and you talk about that this is a demolition site, I want people to understand how long a rebuild would actually take. Marco Rubio also, everybody's having to speak up for this now because of what he said, because he said the quiet part out in the open. So now Marco Rubio is also in the hot seat here. Listen to what he has to say.
What President Trump said yesterday is an acknowledgement of the following. Gaza has been severely damaged. If you look at the aerial imagery, you see what's happening. The billions of dollars that are going to be required for reconstruction are enormous. Some areas have been rendered unlivable now and for the foreseeable future. And so what President Trump announced yesterday is the offer, the willingness of the United States to become responsible for the reconstruction of that area. And while
Pause. This reminds me of the developers that come into the projects, the developers that come into the poor Black neighborhoods, and they have a neighborhood meeting and they show up there to tell you that we're going to rebuild. We're going to make things better. It's going to be so much better for you. You're going to love the rebuild. And they rebuild, and then you're pushed out because you can't afford to stay there anymore. Do people really think that it's going to be more affordable for people to live in Gaza after a rebuild? No, it's going to be more expensive. They'll have no choice but to leave. This is the part about the project that they don't tell you. This is gentrification times 100. If they build it up and make it nice and fancy, you will not be able to afford to live there. Don't forget, a lot of the Palestinian people that were living in Gaza were unemployed. There wasn't a lot of work for people.
you are rebuilding, while you're clearing debris, by the way, there are unexploded munitions. There are all kinds of Hamas weaponry still buried underground. For people to be able to live in a place safely, all of that has to be removed. It's an enormous undertaking.
So if they have to remove everything that's underground, we're talking about a project that could take years. And if they don't want the Palestinian people to be there while they're working on that project, where are they going to be? And once they're sent to another country for 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years, I can almost assure you they will not be allowed to come back. So Marco Rubio is speaking the language of a developer who's trying to reassure the people that everything's going to be okay. It's going to be so much better. You just got to let us rebuild, and you'll be so happy about this after the fact. It's a scam.
And the only thing President Trump has done very generously, in my view, is offer the United States willingness to step in, clear the debris, clean the place up from all the destruction that's on the ground, clean it up of all these unexploded munitions. And in the meantime, the people living there will not be able, the people who call that home will not be able to live there while you have crews coming in and removing debris, while you have munitions being removed, etc. That's the offer that he's made. It's actually, he made a similar, obviously we didn't have a conflict at the time, but when he, in his first term, he offered a $50 billion plan to help Palestinians, which was rejected by the PA and obviously others. So in the interim, obviously, people are going to have to live somewhere while you're rebuilding it. It is akin to a natural disaster. So what he's very generously has offered is the ability of the United States to go in and help with debris removal, help with munitions removal, help with reconstruction, the rebuilding of homes and businesses and things of this nature, so that then people can move back in. But in the meantime...
So do you see what he's doing? He said he's generously doing this, right?
Time they'll have to live somewhere. Now, the details of that, if it was accepted, would have to be worked out among multiple partner nations. It's a unique offer, you know, one that no other country in the world has stepped up and made an offer. But I think it's one people need to think about. Seriously, it was not meant as a hostile move. It was meant as I think, a very generous move, the offer to rebuild and to be in charge of the rebuilding of a place, many parts of which right now, even if people move back, they would have nowhere to live safely because there are still unexploded munitions and debris and rubble.
And who's the fault of that? That is the fault of Israel. Israel demolished Gaza. They made it very clear that that is what they were going to do. Don't forget about that. After October 7th, they said they're going to make sure they demolish all of it, so that they wanted to make it unlivable. And this is exactly what they did. So do not be fooled by that rhetoric from Mark Rubio. Do not fall for that. That is a salesman tactic. And it's worked on people before. So that's why I'm warning you. Now, that being said, even some people on the right are pushing back on that. And one of them is Candace Owens. Now, someone sent this to me earlier today, and I told you I was curious how she would respond about Gaza under a Trump presidency, because I know she was heavily, critical about what Israel was doing, and it is still heavily critical about that. Listen to this. You might be surprised. Listen.
People were asking me about my take on the Gaza situation because Trump recently came out, and I'm going to show you what he said. But leading up to this moment, I hope now people can reflect on really everything that happened last year to me, and people that have written like, "Yes, I love your content. Like, I'm just so sad that I found out that you hate Jews." And I'm like, guys, it's not true. It's completely crazy. I lived in New York. I was born in New York. You cannot hate Jews and be in New York City. You will never get a bagel. Okay, it's just not real. But there was this vicious attack on me because I said things in support of the Gazan children that were being mercilessly murdered, and it was to preserve my media reputation. Like I was happy to be smeared in libel, to be able to stand up for children, and it's almost distinctly because of my everything I learned about the Holocaust in school that I could never stay silent about what I was seeing happening to these women and these children. Like it is directly because of the lessons that I took away and the lessons that were impressed upon me in my schooling that my silence just couldn't be bought on the matter. So anyways, a huge debate right now, obviously.
Yeah, she probably shouldn't have mentioned the bagel comment for reals, but Probably shouldn't have mentioned the bagel comment.
Is Trump really shocking the world and saying that the USA is just going to take over the Gaza Strip? So he hosted Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, which I would have never done if I was president of the United States because of the things that he has done. The irony, by the way, is all of the super powerful Jews in Hollywood have spoken out against Benjamin Netanyahu, like Ari Emanuel, arguably the most powerful Jew in Hollywood, and agreed with what I said. But I guess he was allowed to say it. But here's what Trump said, and I'll tell you what I think about it. Take a listen.
Would Palestinians have the right to return to Gaza if they left while the rebuilding was happening?
It would be my hope that we could do something really nice, really good, where they wouldn't want to return. Why would they want to return? The place has been hell. It's been one of the meanest, toughest places on earth. And right now, I've seen every picture from every angle, better than if I were there. And nobody can live there. You can't live there. So if we can build them through massive amounts of money supplied by other people, very rich nations, and they're willing to supply it. If we can build something for them in one of the countries, and it could.
Oh, 1 second.
Build really good quality housing, like a beautiful town, like someplace where they can live and not die. Because Gaza is a guarantee that they're going to end up dying. The same thing's going to happen again. It's happened over and over again, and it's going to happen again as sure as you're standing there, Peter. So,
of course, never mention it's going to happen again because the person sitting right next to him, right?
I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want?
Sorry, guys, I don't know why it's doing that.
I hope that we could do something where they wouldn't want to go back. Who would want?
I had to pull this out. Sorry, guys. Sometimes it does the spinny thing with YouTube where I'm at 38, 28. And I just got to refresh it. Let's see if we can pull here. 38 right there. Okay.
And here's what he said following that up. Short clip.
The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
So here's why I love that clip. I love these two clips because we have at long last arrived to the period where after a year of gaslighting us and telling us that wasn't happening, like everyone just smearing us in the media, because obviously the media, as we've learned through the Justin Baldoni case to this, is just a place where it's prostitution, right? It's like the highest bidder, right? And after a year of them calling everybody anti-Semitic who noticed that an ethnic cleansing was taking place, we're just now getting to the point which is an ethnic cleansing is going to take place. We're going to just move millions of bodies. And now we're going to try to emotionally engineer the public to think that it's acceptable by saying, well, there's nothing left. Our bombs bombed it all. Why would they want to go back there? There's nothing left, which we have on tape, Bibi Netanyahu saying that before October 7th.
Yep. Didn't we tell you guys? Didn't we tell you this was the plan? I was called, like Candace was called more names than I was, but a lot of us were called every type of name in the book. And we told you guys, this is exactly what the plan was. This is what they wanted to do. And I think what the Biden administration was trying to do is they were just going to let Bibi kill as many people as he wanted to. I'm telling you, the protest gave them pause because they were like, whoa, what is this? Why are we getting this backlash? But I believe their plan was to just let him just keep killing people. If Kamala Harris would have run right now, I still don't think we'd have a ceasefire. I think they still be killing people. Let them kill as many people as possible via bomb or starvation, and then just let them take over the land. Crazy things, fam.
Caught on tape saying we have to make the punishment so severe and so harsh that the Palestinians won't want to go back because there's nothing there. He said this, okay? I showed it on my show and I didn't care about the figurative bullets that were coming my way because those bullets were figurative and they weren't real. And what I saw in terms of the kids being target practiced on in Gaza made me sick to my stomach. And so one of the other favored lies about me in the media is that I agree with everything Trump says and he does. And I could not disagree more with this. I could not have been more vocal in my lack of support for any person who, whether left or right, who claims to be a good and a compassionate person who is okay with what is happening and what they are saying they're going to do. All statements which are on record before October 7th even happened. And in terms of Trump talking about the real estate of the property, saying they have to go, and Jared Kushner was on tape speaking about how much worth the property could be. And so for those of us who said, are there people who have already invested in this property and want to see it being built up because they are going to make a ton of money because the plan is to move these people from their homeland somewhere else? And we were called conspiracy theorists, and we were called Jew haters, and we were called anti-Semites. This is truly a moment of vindication, okay? It is a moment of vindication, and I do not agree with it at all. Not at all. And now they're saying that the UK should take these people. And this just puts us on that circle. You know, it's just, it really is just, it's loony. You have the people in the UK and other countries going, I don't recognize my country. Why don't I recognize my country? Why is this country becoming majority Muslim population? And they don't want to connect the dots and say, well, you know, which country is not becoming majority population, just seems to be expanding its borders all the time? Israel. And we keep fighting their wars or funding their wars. We haven't stopped doing that. So as they become more ethnocentric, as they keep getting more land, as they keep having strict rules about who is allowed to commute, our countries are looking very different. Why would they want to stay home? Because they recognize where they are. So if you're going to build it big and you're make it beautiful, Trump, let them stay there while you do it. I'm sure.
There it is. See? So this is a wrinkle in maybe not a wrinkle, but this is a ripple. Because I was wondering, and I'm glad she said that, because I was curious. I was like, I don't know. Now she's willing to say that, but other people are not, right? Like they're supporting what he's doing because they still they don't want to get that backlash. And a lot of that, again, is audience capture. They don't want to get that backlash. So they're like, no, I'm just going to continue. You know, I'm just going to say this is okay because it's happening under him and it's not happening under Kamala or Biden. But so I will give her kudos for that, because like I told you, I was like, I don't know. Is she going to say anything, like that type of thing? So this is Candace shutting the door on that. And I don't agree with her with a lot of other things politically. Don't get me wrong. But I will say she still managed to stay consistent on this issue, even though Trump is in the White House. And I don't know, maybe some of her supporters may not like this because she's criticizing Donald Trump, but
they would be very happy to do that. And for those of you who can't even imagine, just take a second to pause and think about the fact that for 2 years, these people have been walking on foot, children crying. Find it. It's online. Go look at it. Bleeding, kids being shot in the head. Okay, they're saying 20,000. We know it's now more because of the number that they're giving us in terms of saying how many people have to be moved. It's simple math of how many people are dead there. How many majority women and children are dead in this area. So you imagine you go back and forth. Finally, it is over. And you are now being told that, well, you are going to be really happy because we're going to put you in a country where nobody speaks your language, no one understands you. And you're just going to, I don't know, be in the UK, be in Ireland. Isn't that a better plan? Won't you be happier there than in the rubble? of the place of your ancestors? Isn't that better for you? It's evil. If the theme of what we have been talking about are perfect acts of evil, what has happened to the children and the women of Palestine who had nothing to do with October 7th is a perfect act of evil. And I will not support it. I don't care which friendships have to burn, which invites I won't get, okay? I will not support it because I am a Christian and I am not one that can be maneuvered by money. And I hope that for those of you who are new to my channel, you recognize that that was the ultimate takeaway from everything that was written about me last year, is that I will never bend the knee to evil, whether it comes in a lighter form of Hollywood, being a Hollywood reject and not ever having friends like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, or if it comes in the form of what I believe is happening right now. It's just not something that is for me. And so
she said there, if it cost her friends, if it cost her invites, and I'm glad she said that because that will happen. A number of things that I think some people just may not realize. There are a number of us in this space that have lost friends since October 7th. I know people whose family members aren't speaking to them since October 7th because they support this Zionist project. Like, it's absolutely insane. So it will happen. So she's letting everybody know, if that means I'm going to lose friends, if that means that I'm going to lose invites, then so be it. So at least she's staying consistent on that issue, unlike some people. So when I said that Donald Trump was getting a lot of pushback, it's not just from Democrats. It's also from some people on the right. There were even Republican politicians that came forward as well and said, nah, bruh. Because he really did say the quiet part out loud. So, I'm willing enough, and thank you to the person who sent me this, because I didn't see this. That video is about a different topic, but thank you to the person who sent me that and said, Sabs, Candace responded to this. Thank you. Because I was hoping that she would also have that same view under Donald Trump. So it does seem like there is a break here, right? And we're going to see over Trump's presidency who chooses to remain consistent on that particular issue. Well, let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Kevin. Everyone seems to miss Trump also said homes will be built for the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza. Same press conference. Aries says Sabrina is kicking knowledge. Thank you. We still want to know who's Mark. Aries, who is Mark? Shout out to Ronnie Bullock for becoming a Sabby member. Give Ronnie a big whoop whoop. Hey. Thank you, Jasmine. America believes they're the new Israel. I could see that. Thanks, baby Ethernet. We're not paying for a damn Riviera for Israelis. Thanks, Dolan. Good show. Sorry, I can't hang. I'm passing out. Good night. Well, that's good to know. I hope you sleep well. Thank you, Charlie Mack. Bet they are planning to force American prisoners and detained immigrants as slave labor for a forced rebuild. Exactly. Who's going to do that work? Thank you, Kimmy. Sabby, your interview with Colonel Wilkerson was excellent. Oh, thank you, Kimmy. Guys, make sure you check that out if you haven't had a chance to do so. Colonel Larry Wilkerson, I recorded an interview with him the other day, and it premiered yesterday. That was a really good conversation. Thank you, baby Ethernet. Trump is such a coward. Hold Israel accountable. And Greg Bruce says, I'm surprised she's being this consistent. Yeah, I was shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a woman enough to come forward and say I was wrong. She did call him out on this. So, all right, let's get those comments on Rockfin. Thank you, Stephanie, for the $2 tip on Rockfin. And thank you for this as well. Electronic Intifada this week interviewed a Palestinian engineer in Gaza who basically said they've already started working on the rebuild and all they need is the kind of machinery that can clear the heavy debris. He also made clear that people are searching for their loved ones in mass graves and reburying them. They would not want anyone to go in there where their loved ones are buried. That's the other thing too. The people who are also still under the rubble, Thank you for this as well. Trump and all overlook the fact that their loved ones are either buried there or still missing. They would not let anybody go in there and mess with that. It's understood. And it's their home. It's their home. Okie dokie. How are we doing on likes? Smash the like, guys. I don't know how many likes we have, but smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Thank you. And we are moving on to the next story. And I hope you got some popcorn ready for this one because this shit is so funny. Okay, so a while back, Kamala Harris had an interview with 60 Minutes. We covered that on the show. This is when she was still in the presidential race, still in the running at that point in time. Well, since then, it appears that Donald Trump's team requested to have the transcript of that interview because the interview was, I guess, recorded, but not just because it was recorded. There were pieces of the interview that were missing. Now, how did people come to this conclusion? Well, 60 Minutes aired one part of the interview, and apparently Face the Nation aired a different part of the interview, which gave people pause. And they're like, wait a minute. There are different answers to these questions here. So CBS News did decide to release the full unedited video, that interview with Kamala Harris. I did see the full thing, but there are 3 questions in particular that were changed through edits that I do want to focus on for this particular discussion. And I want you to think about how this door was shut. The first one is the response to taxes. So let's get to this clip first. Shout out to Gio Debata. Kamala's actual interview answers with 60 Minutes were so bad. Let's get to the response. Again, the unedited response to the tax question. Listen to this.
Madam Vice President, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you.
Well, can we just get just a little bit of a question, please, so I can get it over the shoulder shot?
Yeah.
1 second. Just a second.
Did you guys hear what that was? Let's go back because there's someone in the background.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Good to be with you.
Well, can we just get just a little bit of a question, please, so I can get it over the shoulder shot?
Yeah.
1 second. Just a second. Okay. Thank you.
You need me talking?
Yes, sir.
Well, we were talking about how you're going to pay for it, and I mean, I truly do mean it. Your plans are logical, make logical sense. Mm-hmm. The way Washington works is not logical. So how are you going to convince a divided Congress that what you say, your plans, are something that they should all agree to and provide to the American people when they've shown no inclination to do that up to this point?
Is that what you needed?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. 30 seconds of silence, please, for John.
So I believe that must be a producer in the background. So do you see what's happening here? He's like, okay, 30 seconds of silence. So he wanted to get that soundbite there from the interviewer there for 60 Minutes. And he's like, okay. And she goes, is that what you needed? And he goes, yes, 30 seconds of silence, please. So again, as I told you back then during that time and people heckled me for it, I told you that was not a live interview. It was very obvious that for those of us who do content creation, that interview was recorded. Okay. I know a record when I see one. Okay. It was very obvious. Now watch this part. Isn't this awkward?
Cameras are off.
How will you?
It's going to be taxes. It's going to be literally, if the economists,
So we're going to go back. I want you to hear him say the cameras are off. Listen again.
Cameras are off.
How will?
So the producer back there says cameras are off. So you see how they were setting this up to insert part of the answer, but not the full answer. And they're filming it. And they said, give me 30 seconds of silence. So that 30 seconds, he's just sitting there looking at her. How awkward is that? To make it look like it's natural, but it's not. It's like when someone gets, we used to talk about this, right? Like when I was in school. One of the things I used to tell people is like, it's like when someone, they go to the salon and they're like, they get like a weave or something like that. Let's extensions or something like that, right? And everybody we all know that's not natural. We all know that's not your hair. Fine. It is what it is. Flaunt it. You got it like that. Flaunt it like that. But it's when you try to pass it off as though it is. Like, that's the thing that people are kind of like, why are you trying to like, we just know that it's fine. It is what it is. Just claim that, right? Don't try to trick people. They try to trick people. So once he said the cameras were off, now he says, how will you? How will you do it? So this is not in the interview. That's the part I wanted to show people. Watch.
Cameras are off.
How will you?
It's going to be taxes. It's going to be literally, if the economists, they're from each spectrum.
But I hear what you're saying about the economists. This is true. Yeah. But Congress is not the economists.
I know,
See, that's not in the unedited interview. And what that shows you is that she was unsure. What that shows you is that she didn't know how she was going to get it done. What that tells you, ladies and gentlemen, is that she wasn't ready. And this is what I was saying last year. And people were like, oh, you're being too hard on Kamala. Give her a chance. That's misogynist. That's sexist. That's racist. I'm a Black woman. And I saw it. She wasn't ready, fam. And they wanted you to believe that she was. She didn't know how she was going to do it. She was just saying things. And so that part of the interview is not there. That was off camera because she didn't know. As president, you got to know. So then we go to the second question. We go to the part about Ukraine. And there was deception here as well. And I think everybody needs to hear this one, especially if you are anti-war, right? So let's go to the video first.
Would you meet with President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a solution to the war?
This is really, there we go. So the first part you're going to see is the top part. This is the part that's edited. That's the part that all of us saw. And then this bottom part here is the unedited part. So let's watch the part that we saw first. Listen to this.
Would you meet with President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a solution to the war in Ukraine?
Not bilaterally without Ukraine. No. Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine.
As president, would you support the effort to expand NATO to include Ukraine?
Those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point. Right now, we are supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia's unprovoked aggression. Donald Trump, if he were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. He talks about, oh, he can end it on day one. You know what that is? It's about surrender.
Would you meet with President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a solution to the war in Ukraine?
Not bilaterally without Ukraine. No. Ukraine must have a say in the future of Ukraine.
How about as president?
I'm sorry that this part is quiet, but I'll show you the transcript as well.
Would you support the effort to expand NATO to include Ukraine?
Those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point. Right now, we are supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia's unprovoked aggression. And
I think it's at, oh, okay. I didn't know you could do that. Okay. Eric's going to make it louder for you guys. Because you have to hear what she says about Ukraine, guys. This is so important because this was pulled out as well. Just pull it back just a little bit.
To include Ukraine.
those are all issues that we will deal with if and when it arrives at that point. Right now, We are supporting Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia's unprovoked aggression and doing what we can to continue to build and strengthen the alliance around the support for Ukraine's right to be an independent nation, free from having its borders forcefully taken by Russia. And we are going to continue to work closely with our NATO allies to continue to reinforce America's alliance in the context of NATO. Again, in this election, there's a real difference between me and the former president. I believe in reinforcing the strength of NATO, understanding, again, it is the greatest military alliance the world has ever known. Donald Trump would pull us out of NATO. Donald Trump, if he were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. Let's be clear about that. He talks about, oh, he can end it on day one. You know what that is?
So now we get to the part of where she says Donald Trump would have Putin sitting in Kyiv right now if he were. So I'll show you the part that was removed. We have the transcript as well, and it's circled. This piece right here was cut. And doing what we can to continue to build and strengthen the alliance around the support for Ukraine's right to be an independent nation, free from having its borders forcefully taken by Russia. And we are going to continue to work closely with our NATO allies to continue to reinforce America's alliance in the context of NATO. They removed this piece here that she said about NATO. Why? Why did they remove that? That's what she believes. That's how she feels. Why would they remove that at that point in time? Is it because they know that anti-war movement has been growing? Is it because they know that more and more Americans are not too fond of this idea of NATO? Is that part of the reason why? Why did they take that out? That was not in the interview that was shown to you. Were they trying to make her look like less of a war hawk? What were they trying to do? That's Ukraine. The worst part here is the question about Israel. And you're going to see her real answer first this time, and then you're going to see the edited response. This is what we were getting, folks. This is what we were getting. Listen to this. This is her actual answer that you did not see.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
That's a completely different answer. And I believe they took this out because listen to what she says.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
So what they removed there was her admitting to you that the movements that Israel did in the region, what Israel was doing to the West Bank, what Israel was doing to the Palestinians in Gaza, it was supported by them. What did I tell you last year? I told you Israel is not doing anything that the Biden administration doesn't want them to do. So they had to remove that because that's openly admitting, which was true. They had to remove that because they're like, no, we can't keep that in there because then people are going to hear you say that the U.S. government was approving of the movements that Israel made in that region, which was the truth. This is not the same answer.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We are not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
Guys, this is deception. I mean, she didn't win, but if she did win, do you see this? You go from the movements that they've made in the region has been supported by us to we're not going to stop. I literally had a back and forth again with a former high school classmate of mine who argued me down that Kamala Harris would be different on this issue. And I said, no, she would not. She's a Zionist. She always has been. He was like, well, she didn't say. Yeah, she actually did, but it was edited. So you think she didn't say it. This is why I tell you to follow the money, folks. You see how they're deceiving people? You see how the media is deceiving people? So this is why I say follow the money. So if you follow the money and you see that she's taking all this money from AIPAC, you can kind of figure out what her position is going to be when it comes to the Palestinian people. I remember Kamala Harris standing up on that stage and saying ever since she was a little girl, she had this passion to fight for Israel. I didn't hear her say she had passion to fight for the Palestinian people. I've never heard her say she had passion to fight for the Palestinian people. She wouldn't even let a Palestinian American speak on the damn stage at the Democratic Party National Convention. So why would people believe that that she had this passion for these people? She never did. You want to believe it. You want to believe it because it's your party. It is possible for both parties to be trash. This is very possible, but it was hidden from you. But if you did a little bit of research, you would have seen throughout her career, she has advocated for Israel. She has spoken at multiple AIPAC conventions, just like Cory Booker, just like Richie Torres. So if you can see it with Richie Torres, if you can see it with Cory Booker, why all of a sudden when it came to Kamala Harris, you were blinded to this? You had these blinders on all of a sudden, you know? Shut the door on the bullshit. This woman tried to play you, man. The difference between Kamala and Trump is that Trump said the quiet part out loud, out in the open. He didn't try to hide. She was trying to hide. She was trying to play you. When people ask me why I had so much disgust and disdain for the Democratic Party, it's because I don't like being played. It's because they pretend to be something that they're not. And that doesn't mean you go vote for the Republicans, but the reality is, would you rather be stabbed in the back or in the front? I want to know what's coming at me. You don't want someone to sneak up behind you. So shut the door. Now, I don't know if the unedited, you can watch the full unedited interview, by the way, if you Google it. I don't know if this would have even been a thing if she would have won. That's the thing. But she let you know she agreed. She didn't care about those Palestinian people. Every time she mentioned this conflict, she mentioned them last. But you have all these people where they're trying their best to smear all these people. Blue MAGA is crazy right now. Blue MAGA is all on social media and saying, that's what you guys get for voting third party. That's what you guys get for not coming out to vote. You need to remember that you still need to try to win come 2028. And shaming voters is not the way that you get back there. You need to remember that in order to win Michigan, you have to win Dearborn. You have to win Detroit and the Detroit suburbs, and Dearborn is a part of that. So you going around pointing your fingers and shaming people for not wanting to vote for the people who killed their fucking family members. What the hell is wrong with you? It's a cult. It's such a mess. It's such a mess. I've never seen I swear to God. I knew there were issues within the parties, but Blue MAGA right now is showing you just how racist and nasty they can be, which is what I told you guys. I've been telling you for years that white liberals can also be racist. And all you got to do is move against the grain and they'll show you just how nasty they can be. As long as you march at their beat, they'll be fine with you. The moment you move outside of the lane, they will show their whole ass. And that's what you're seeing on social media right now. Such a mess. Hey, Terry Hinton says, teach Sabby. Savita says, yes, white liberals are right. Yeah, I've been telling people. It's a hot mess. Let's go to some of the other comments here. Thank you, Jay. Hi, Sabby. I'm having dinner with friends, but wanted to drop in and say a quick hello. Hello, Jay. I see you got Dynasty up in your profile picture. Simon says, thank you, Sabby, for your great interview with Larry Wilkerson. You're welcome. Thanks. Oh, my days. She would have gotten us into a real war, not the proxy war we are in now. I believe that. Thank you, Atomic Yang. Thanks, Sabby. Great show. Keep exposing these fools. And thank you, Anxious Mystic. If Kamala Harris had won, the liberals would have been absolutely insufferable. She has a lot of bloodlust. Relieved she lost, but sad the other a-hole won. I hear you. I hear you. We have announcements, and then we'll get to the other stories. Quick announcement. Write this down. So I know I've said this on the show before, but I just want to shout this out again. You guys have got to be very much aware of scam artists. And there are people who are creating accounts to make it look like a YouTuber that you watch, and they're trying to get money out of people. And I want to show you one of them right here. So it was brought to my attention. There's another one. Now, if you look at this, that looks like me, but it's not. What they are doing is they are replying to comments in the chat, in the comment section of my YouTube videos, pretending to be me. Now, I finally got the phone number of one of these fools, so we'll see how much longer they try to pretend to do this. I did report the channel to YouTube, so YouTube knows. But what they're doing is when you leave a comment under one of my videos, they're replying to people in the comments, and you think it's me, but it's not me. So here's a big tip that I want to give you. I do not reply to comments on YouTube for this very reason, because of the scammers. So if you see a reply with my face on it, that's not me. Another way that you can tell is by clicking on the picture. When they reply to your comment, if you click on the picture, you'll be able to go to their YouTube page. Does this look like my YouTube page? This isn't even my channel name. My channel name is Sabby Sabs. There's no dash in between my name. The other way that you can clarify this is the handle. And this is something I'm glad YouTube did. One thing that cannot be duplicated is the handle. The handle that this person has says at Sabby Sabs -I9S. That's not my handle. You'll also notice on this channel, there's nothing here. No videos, no nothing. My subscriber count is posted on my channel. I'll show you the difference. If you click on more, you'll see this channel was created February 2nd, 2025. My channel was created way before then. So what they are doing, be very careful, guys. I'm telling you, I will never give you my phone number. I would never respond to a YouTube comment. I'm not going to tell you, DM me and I'll talk to you more about some things. So that's what they're doing to people, and they're getting money out of them. I would never do that. One of the things they said to people is, can you invest? Invest in, I would never ask you to invest in anything. I don't do crypto. I don't sell. I don't do any of that stuff. You can see the difference between that channel and my channel. My channel name is Sabby Sabs. There's no dash in between. My channel name has a check mark because it's a verified channel. That happens when you reach over 100,000 subs and you apply for it. So you see the difference. My channel name, unlike this one, is in all caps. My channel name is not. My handle for my channel is at Sabby Sabs, not at Sabby Sabs -I9S. See, they can't duplicate the handle. My channel has videos on the channel. And if you click on more, notice I have a description. They don't. If you click on more, you'll see here, even my streaming schedule is posted. But more importantly, this channel started 2019. So be very, very careful. I will say this again, and I've sent this out via my newsletter, and I posted it on my Facebook page, letting people know, do not respond to any comment that has my face. That is not me. And if you see it, if you click on it, you'll be able to see what channel it goes to. You can copy the link of the channel and email it to me. And that's what someone did. That's how I knew there was another person who created another channel. People have been doing this for over a year. Now, I finally was able to get the phone number of this one because someone was able to get to the point where they gave them the number that they needed to DM. So I have the number. The area code is Indiana. I don't live in Indiana. I've never lived in Indiana. So just be very careful, guys. It's happened to a number of people, but I don't want you to get caught out here like that. I don't want you to be out here like that in these streets. So just FYI. Mimi, Jamal Thomas is also having issues on Twitter with an account takeover. I believe this is being done to confuse your subscribers and followers. Yes, I heard this about Jamal Thomas because I got a DM from him and I was like, I don't think this is, why would Jamal send me this? And I think there is some confusion done there. So if you follow me on my newsletter, my Substack, anytime something, I send those out via my newsletter, right? So I'll send it out and let people know, don't respond to this, da-da-da. And YouTube will come in and will shut them down. Like I'll click hide it on my channel so people can't see it, but YouTube will go in and shut them down, but then they'll just create a new channel. So whoever it is, I got the phone number now and I'll do what I need to do going forward, but I don't want you guys to fall for that. Okie dokie. Let's move on. Thank you, Victor Creed. Thanks, Sabby, for keeping it real. Thank you. You're welcome. Okay. We're moving on to the next story. Speaking of keeping it real and shutting that door. You know, Anderson Cooper has some damn nerve. Now, all of a sudden, CNN pretends to care about the Palestinian people. Now, all of a sudden, CNN wants to know, how do you feel? How do you feel hearing Trump say that he's going to take over, Gaza? But I don't think they got the response that they were expecting. Check this out. Anderson is in for a shock.
At the top of the program, we laid out the administration's rewriting of what the president said last night about taking over Gaza and remaking it as a Riviera of the Middle East, his words. Regardless of what the people around him say he said it all on camera, and millions of people saw it, including Arab Americans, many of whom voted for him. More from CNN's Jason Carroll now in Dearborn, Michigan.
Days before the last presidential election, Donald Trump was the invited guest at the Great Commoner restaurant in Dearborn, Michigan. Albert Abbas says he extended that invitation, a decision he is now reflecting on, given all that has happened in the last 24 hours.
Many in the community are at a loss for words. Last night was a very rough night for most of us.
Abbas is Arab American and one of a number of Democrats who voted for Trump. Abbas says he hoped Trump would do more than President Joe Biden did to help Palestinians suffering in Gaza.
The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
But after Trump said Palestinians should leave Gaza so it can be redeveloped, Abbas says not only does he feel betrayed, he's hearing from a number of people angered
I don't know why
over his past support of Trump.
People were really, really frustrated. And I don't think there's anyone to blame. At the end of the day, as Arab Americans or Muslims, we really didn't have much of a choice.
So let me pause there for a second because I want you to think about what he just said. He said we really didn't have much of a choice, right? In Dearborn in particular, there were some that were going to vote for Jill Stein, but decided that week that it would be better for them to vote for Donald Trump because they wanted to make sure that Kamala Harris lost. And they were afraid that if they voted for Jill, then Kamala may still have a chance to win. And Jill Stein came on to talk about that. There are a number of people saying, where's Jill Stein and all that? These people are trolls. Jill Stein was on the show recently with Shama Sawant. They have a event coming up to fight back against the rich. Of course, they're not talking about that. They know that Jill Stein is on the ground doing things, but these people are just trolls. And they all got the PR talking point. But they decided to go in that direction. And then there were some that did believe that Trump might be better for them. That being said, even though they're upset about the rhetoric that's coming from Trump and what he's saying about the Gaza Strip, he said they really didn't have a choice. Because the reality was either you vote for the people who have been killing your family members for over 15 months, or you vote for Jill Stein, who, again, the goal was to get to 5%. And we all knew that, well, you're not going to be able to win if you're not on the debate stage. That's just the reality. We all admit this about third party candidates. Or you vote for Donald Trump, who was not a part of the genocide, but had genocidal rhetoric and went to Dearborn and promised that he would do something for the people. One of the biggest mistakes that Kamala Harris made is that she never even went there. She didn't go to Dearborn to talk to the people at all. At all. Now, what would I have wanted? I would have wanted everybody who disagreed with the genocide to come out and support someone like Jill Stein and get that Green Party to the 5%. You may not agree with them on every single issue, but hell, they weren't trying to genocide people either. So keep that in mind. They were correct on that issue. That's what I would have wanted. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And so now what CNN is trying to do is CNN is now trying to make it seem like they are concerned about the welfare of the Palestinian people. When they sat up there and they lied for 15 months straight, they lied about the sexual assault on October 7th, which has been debunked multiple times. They totally ignored the Palestinians that were sexually assaulted in the Palestinian detention center, even though the video was all over social media. They totally ignored that. They totally ignored the occupation and the oppression of the Palestinian people, everything that happened before October 7th. Now, all of a sudden, they did exactly what I thought that they would do, and that is to try to pivot and to say, now that Trump is in the White House, now all of a sudden, we're going to show like we care about the Palestinian people, and he does not. So this is a game that corporate media plays. MSNBC is doing the same thing. Fox News is being consistent on this because they're not pretending that they care about the Palestinian people now, and they didn't pretend like they did last year. The pivot is happening from CNN and MSNBC. Let's continue.
Dearborn, a Detroit suburb, is home to the largest Arab American population in the United States, a community which helped Trump carry the critical swing state. He won 42% of the vote in Dearborn versus Vice President Harris with 36% and Jill Stein with 18%.
Pause. This is a little bit disingenuous. They're talking about the Arab American vote because if they talk about the Muslim vote, Jill Stein is at the top. So does everybody see what they're doing? When it comes to just because you're Arab American doesn't mean you're Muslim. And just because you're Muslim doesn't mean you're Arab American. So even with this, with the data, they are showing you how biased they can be because they're still trying to make Kamala look better than she actually does. Jill Stein won the Muslim vote nationally. She won the Muslim vote. So they're not going to show you the Muslim vote. They're going to show you the Arab American vote. And they're going to do that because what they were trying to point to is they want you to see, oh, Jill Stein got 18% of the Arab American vote. That could have gone to Kamala Harris. And they don't tell you about the Muslim vote. So keep that in mind.
2020, Biden handily carried the city with 69%. Faye Nimmer voted for Trump in 2024 out of frustration over the previous administration's support of Israel. Now, she is troubled by the president's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza.
I mean, it's very concerning and it's infuriating.
Personal feelings, you're infuriated, but standing by your decision for now to have voted for Trump.
Correct.
And what would move that needle for you to say, you know what, I made a mistake?
Palestine is the red line for this community.
Nimmer says she suspects Trump is bluffing and is using his proposal as some sort of negotiating tactic. That's the same sentiment shared by Amar Zar.
First, this is clearly not going to happen, right?
And real estate broker Ali Alfarajala.
A lot of people are calling me and texting me saying, hey, you know, how did your vote work out? You know, how was that third party vote?
Both were so-called protest voters. Neither supported Trump or Harris. Are there any sort of second thoughts now about having supported a third party candidate?
Absolutely not. And I'll still do it again and again and again.
I didn't vote for Trump.
See? You see what they're doing? Any regrets about voting third party? I don't regret voting third party. And I'm with him. I do it again and again and again. They're trying to get them to admit that there's some type of regret so that people are less inclined to vote outside the duopoly next presidential election. That's what this is really all about. They don't care about the Palestinian people. They didn't care about them last year. Now all of a sudden they all up in their face talking about how do you feel? Are you worried? Are you concerned? Please.
Trump. So a protest vote? I don't know. I would say it was a targeted vote of conscience to say that the children of Gaza have to mean something. Their death has to mean something.
And while Arab Americans here were divided in the past, going forward, one point is uniting them: opposition to Trump's proposal to move Palestinians out of Gaza.
The community will be unified. I will tell you this. The Palestinian people would rather die and live in a demolition site than to be ethnically cleansed and being sent out of Gaza to Egypt or Jordan.
Yep.
So again, Anderson, after spending some time here in the Arab American community, you really get a sense that they feel like they've been let down by both Republicans and Democrats. Certainly, there's a great deal of frustration after hearing what Trump is proposing, but there's also a feeling that had Harris been elected, had it been a Harris administration, the feeling here is that Palestinians would still be suffering. Anderson?
Just Carol, thanks very much. And you're born with me now. Put some numbers to the stories. CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton. Generally speaking, has there been much an appetite in the U.S. for...
Pause here for a second, right? Because it's important that he said that last part there. Because here's the reality, folks. If the Democratic Party wants to win Michigan, they're going to have to win Dearborn again, just like Biden did. Remember, Hillary did not win Dearborn. Trump was able to come in and win Michigan. But you cannot win Michigan without getting Detroit and the Detroit suburb area. It was wrong for Kamala Harris not to take a fierce stance against Israel. And it was wrong for Kamala Harris not to visit Dearborn, Michigan. So we don't know if those voters are ever going to come back to the Democratic Party. Some of the people that I've spoken to said, hell no, that they would never go back to support the Democratic Party again after this. So for all the people, the blue MAGA people on Twitter and Facebook coming after people saying, this is your fault because you stayed home. It's your fault because you voted third party. It's your fault because you da-da-da-da. You need to think about that. You need to think about the best chance that the Democratic Party has of winning the next presidential election is the blue wall. It is Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It's not the Sun Belt. It's not North Carolina. It's not Georgia. It's definitely not Nevada. It's not Arizona, because you screwed over with those states by the immigration policies. That's why a lot of them came out and flipped back towards Donald Trump. So this is why I've said this before. If the Democratic Party doesn't make things right, which I don't think they really care to, they'll lose again. Unfortunately, it comes down to swing states, guys. And for the people who are, the funny thing is the people who are pointing fingers at people that don't even live in swing states, that part is, to me, is hilarious. It comes down to the swing states. Going a little bit more here.
Or to get involved in rebuilding Gaza?
No, there has not been. Look, we have no new polling since last night, right? Polling works fast. It doesn't work that fast. But in the polling that we had prior, that was taken towards the middle end of last year, what we saw was the overwhelming majority of Americans opposed the idea that the United States should take a lead role in reconstructing Gaza. You can see it right there, 57% opposed, just 37% support. And what I should note is the support was lowest among Trump's own base of Republicans. So the idea that this is going to sell among the American people at large or the Republican base, simply put, he definitely wasn't looking at the polls before he went out there and made a statement that was heard around the world because of how crazy it sounded to most people.
How did...
But don't think, but see, they're saying this, but don't think that just because there were Republicans who were against this, don't think that means that people are not going to back their party. This is the same issue that the consultant group around Kamala Harris made. You know, they thought that because so many people that typically would have supported Donald Trump and didn't want Donald Trump again this time and voted for Nikki Haley in the GOP primary, they assumed that Kamala can go get those people. No, because at the end of the day, people back their party, even if they don't 100%, love the presidential candidate. So don't think that just because people said that in that poll, that those conservative voters are not going to continue to support their party, especially the next presidential election. That is a big mistake to make.
Palestinians view President Trump during his first administration.
Yeah, so we're talking about Americans, right? But at the end of the day, the Gaza Strip is filled with Palestinians, right? So the question is, how did Palestinians feel about Donald Trump during his first term? And the bottom line is they absolutely disapproved of his leadership. I mean, you rarely see numbers like this. Look at this. 78% during his first term disapproved of his leadership. Just 10% approved of it. And I even drilled down a little bit more because I love going into those crosstabs. And what I found was approval, or at least disapproval among Gazans was even higher. The disapproval among Gazans was even higher than it was among Palestinians overall. So simply put, this would not be a popular plan either in America or in the Palestinian territories.
But the reality is the support for Donald Trump among Palestinians, was obviously there's 7-8% against like his first term. All the more reason why the Democratic Party shouldn't have lost to Donald Trump this time. Like they keep throwing up these numbers and these numbers don't work in their favor, boo. They don't. So when we talk about shutting the door, this is exactly what I was talking about. Shut the door on the blue MAGA crazies who are harassing you, who are coming after you saying you should have did this, you should have did that, you da-da-da-da-da. These people are in a cult. This is exactly what they sound like. And I've heard it all over, okay? The same people who are now wishing death upon the Palestinian people, the same blue MAGA liberals that are telling people, I hope you get deported. The same blue MAGA liberals that are even said like some vile things that were wishing sexual assault upon people who did not come and support Kamala Harris. These two parties have people crazy. People have lost their freaking minds. And not everybody who supports these parties, but ideally at the end of the day, you have the cultist. And some of these people are paid. Some of the people online that are attacking people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris are paid influencers, or they work for such and such organization, which is a part of the Democratic Party. Now, they're not going to tell you that. You have to look up their name and do the research for yourself, but that's all a part of the plan. They want to shame you. They want to instill fear in you. They want to do things like this. And shout out to this gentleman here because he did such a good job with this.
Did you get what you wanted? Did you get what you wanted? Yeah. This is what you wanted, huh? He won. I hope you got exactly what you wanted. I hope you got for all of the black people who were quote unquote mad at the Democratic Party because they wouldn't give you reparations or they wouldn't promise you a black focused vote or whatever it is. I hope you get Trump, who's not going to promise you anything. He's going to take you back to slavery. I hope he calls you monkey. I hope he calls you jigaboo and a spook. I hope he calls you monkey twice. I hope buck breaking comes back. I hope they call all the black women mammies. I hope all of that happens so you can see what you asked for. I hope that all the Mexicans who were afraid of illegal immigrants just as much as the other people were. I hope those people get sent back to their country. Yeah. I hope all of the Hispanics in Miami-Dade who were just afraid of communism because they came from a country that was just ravaged by it. I hope that they get shown what it looks like to really be ravaged. I hope they get sent back on boats. I hope they have to swim back. I hope their back has to be wet all over again. Because that's what he's going to make you do. He's going to make you swim all the way back. Yeah, all those people in Michigan who didn't support Kamala Harris because she wouldn't say the word weapons embargo. Yeah, I hope they're forced to go through what happened right after 9/11. Yeah, flight risks all of you. He's gonna put all of you in internment camps. Because that's what you wanted, right? You wanted to be in an internment camp. You wanted that, all right? That's what you wanted. I hope everybody who had religious values until they wouldn't support Kamala Harris. I hope you get forced to have babies. I hope your father assaults you and therefore you're forced to have the baby that you wanted so badly. I hope that's what happens to you. I hope you get every racial epithet and I hope you get all of the disrespect that you deserve. Because remember that people like us tried to stop stuff like that and you wouldn't listen. So I hope they call you a monkey, a spook, a jigaboo, and I can't even say the other words because I'll get banned. So thank you. Have a good day. I didn't even vote for the motherfucker. What the fuck did I do?
Exactly. And that's what a big part of it is. A lot of us obviously did not vote for Donald Trump. But then they're saying you're pro-Trump if you didn't vote for Donald Trump. These people are all over the place. I can't. It's just ridiculous. Ignore them. You literally have the craziest thing to me is you have black liberals siding with white liberals on social media about violence towards people who didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I want to remind everybody, a lot of the Karen videos that used to see maybe 2 or 3 years ago, those were liberals. Who did people think they were? Those women weren't concerned. They were liberals. I've been saying this for the longest freaking time. So it's just crazy. The one thing I will say with conservatives, you know what you get is coming right at you. You know what you're getting. But a lot of the white liberals, they'll smile in your face and pretend like they're all buddy-buddy with you. But the moment you don't move the way they want you to move, that's how they do you. And what's crazy about it is you have black liberals going along with that. Going along with it. Not thinking about the fact that if they want the Democratic Party to win Michigan, you might want to stop calling people in Michigan names. Shut the door on that mess. God. Let's go to some of the comments here. Anything for clicks said I sent 1K to the fake account. Oh my God. Anything for clicks. I'm so sorry. No. Yeah, guys, please do not fall for that. Again, I don't respond to comments. I don't give you my number. I would never give my phone number out to audience. Even when we do call in, we do it on Zoom. Right. So I would never do that. Please do not respond to any of that type of stuff. In the meantime, YouTube should be removing that channel. Thank you, Philip. After Nixon was elected, liberals started pretending to care about people of Vietnam. Listen to the anti-war music, FM, the first year of the Nixon administration. That's a good point. Travers says Dems are a dead party. Dianne Feinstein is their cheerleader. Thank you, Roger. How my vote working out for voting green? How's yours for voting blue? Oh, that's a good point. Thank you, Kevin. Trump won. They're moved. Harris won. They're dead. Work it out from there. Thank you, Philip. I disapprove of Anderson Cooper, Dana Bash, Van Jones, and Jake Tapper, and disapprove of MSNBC and Fox News a lot too. Am I bad? Thank you, John. Dems need to get it together, but wouldn't JD Vance be easier to beat? Trump is an asshole, but has charisma. Vance is boring and lacks charisma. I guess we'll have to wait and see, huh? Thank you, Juanita. MAGA Blue suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. I agree with you. I agree. All right, guys, smash that like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share like a Care Bear. And we're moving on to the story here about Richie Medhurst. When I tell you that there has been a crackdown on independent journalists, I mean real independent investigative journalists like Jeremy Lafredo from the Gray Zone. There's been a crackdown towards him. Obviously, he was arrested in Israel and was there for at least a week, I believe, if I remember correctly. Of course, we cannot forget about Julian Assange. They have been targeting journalists heavily, especially those who have been criticizing Israel. And this is now the second time that Richie Medhurst has been targeted within the past couple of months. He did issue a statement here. He was detained by the Austrian police. That's right, Austrian police. Richie Medhurst, if you guys are not familiar, he is an investigative journalist. I believe Richie is Syrian as well. So he's also talked about Syria. He talks about Gaza, Israel, a lot of Middle East politics. Listen to this story. This is crazy.
My name is Richard Medhurst. I'm an internationally accredited journalist from the UK. On Monday, agents from the Austrian police and intelligence services detained me, raided my home, raided my studio, and then interrogated me. They essentially lured me into a trap. So I received a letter from the government last week from immigration, summoning me for some interview at my residency. I found that a bit odd because I've lived here for a while. I never had any problems. So having nothing to fear, I went to the meeting by myself. And then after a few simple questions, they suddenly issued a thinly veiled threat saying they were considering revoking my residency because of my alleged reporting on Palestine and Lebanon. So of course, my answer was no comment. And as soon as I thought everything was over, I was ambushed by a group of plainclothes agents. They entered the room, flashing their badges in my face, and they said that they were the Austrian equivalent of MI5 or the FBI.
Okay. We haven't even gotten into the thick of it yet. But I'm heavily against plainclothes officers because you never know if those people are who they say that they are. I think you should have to be in uniform. But two, Richie didn't do anything wrong. They came after him because of his reporting about Gaza. He's in Austria. He wasn't in Israel. I've been very concerned about the crackdowns that are happening in Europe, where a number of people, it was just a couple of days ago, we covered the story about Ali from the Electronic Intifada, who was detained in Switzerland. I thought Switzerland was supposed to be neutral. And some people are saying, well, they thought Austria also was supposed to be neutral, but I'm going to show you, they're not really as neutral as you think. This should have never happened. So second time with Richie in the past couple of months. So they're really trying to make an example out of him and send a strong message. They're trying to get him to stop talking about it. Let's continue.
They detained me and then they served me with a warrant from the state prosecutor to search my home, search my studio, take all of my devices. Why? Because they think that I, a Christian Englishman, am a member of Hamas. Yes, you heard that correctly. They are accusing me of being a member of Hamas.
That part right there is incredibly dangerous. So now we move into this issue with free speech where they're trying to accuse journalists who are covering Palestine in a favorable way, who are advocating for the Palestinian people. They are trying to say that they are Hamas. And the reason why they're trying to do that is because if they say that Richie is Hamas, then they can say that Richie is a terrorist. And if they say that Richie is a terrorist, then not only can he be detained, but they can try to put him away for years. They can shut down all of his journalism. Remember after October 7th, there were a couple of congressmen that were approached by Code Pink activists, and they said that everybody in Gaza was Hamas. Even the babies, when they were asked about the babies, they said even the babies were Hamas. I'm trying to tell you why they're doing this. Because if they say that all of them are, then that gives the excuse to get rid of all of them. These are very serious times, you guys. Very serious times.
Of being part of the Azz-al-Din Qassam brigades, of disseminating propaganda, encouraging terrorism, being affiliated with organized crime and a terrorist group. I mean, it's like reading something out of the Twilight Zone. So they seized my phone and they drove me to my residence, ransacked the place. They even took devices which I repeatedly told them do not belong to me. Then they drove me to my studio and turned the place upside down. So I had to watch my devices being disassembled before my very eyes by a group of strangers. All these tools that I spent years building and investing in, the core of my journalistic profession. They took, in total, they took like 5-6 different laptops and computers, phones, USB sticks, hard drives, DVDs, you name it. And although the warrant was for electronic devices only, for some reason, they took photos of my residence, photos of the office, of the bathroom. They helped themselves to anything they saw, books, papers, documents, cupboards, closets.
So they took pictures of his house. That's scary. That's not what the warrant was for. Now, I don't know what the rules are with the police in Austria. I mean, in the United States, like obviously you have a warrant for whatever the warrant says. But I don't know what the laws are in Austria. Crazy.
Tell you the truth, though, the agents treated me kindly and with respect. They didn't deny me any of my basic needs. Now, as you recall, I was unjustly arrested a few months ago in London. They jailed me for almost 24 hours under the Terrorism Act. Strangely enough, last week, the police in England again extended this investigation. And then suddenly this happens in Vienna. I don't think that is mere coincidence. Okay. The first thing I asked the Austrian agents was, did my government put you up to this? And they replied, no, Britain doesn't talk to us. Well, forgive me, but I find that a bit hard to believe. I do think that this persecution, this raid is related to the case in Britain. I think it's being coordinated with Britain. Now, my colleague, Stefania Marizzi, who works on the Snowden papers with Glenn Greenwald, she reported last month in Il Fatto Quotidiano that the British police seized a graphene OS device from me and that it was very unlikely that they'd be able to crack it. So I suppose that's why Britain asked the Austrians to raid me, grab anything they could find, and go on this massive fishing expedition. The warrant even mentions my arrest in London to try and bolster their case. The Austrian agents, they asked me for the passwords to my devices, and I said no, because as a journalist, I have an ethical, a professional obligation to protect my sources. None of them were compromised. During the raid, I spoke briefly with the techs who were extracting my devices, from one nerd to another. And they told me that if they can't crack the devices, they send them outside sometimes to other countries, to other law enforcement agencies, and ask them for help. So that further indicated to me that this could very well be related to what's happening in the UK against me. Now, all these devices are work devices. They're my journalistic tools. I have been left with literally nothing. I mean, just to film this was a struggle. Okay.
So what that tells you is that other countries are working with you have one country working with other countries to try to shut him up. Ali from Electronic Intifada was detained in Switzerland. Who put that call out? You see what I mean? In fact, I'm hearing more and more reports about journalists being detained in Europe than in the US. Europe is on some high level crazy shit right now. I don't know if you want to be all up around there if you're doing investigative journalism at this point in time. But they're working together. So there's no telling who else, when he mentioned London the first time he was detained, there's no telling who else London has contacted. No telling.
Hey, believe me, no phone, no computer, no SD cards, nothing. They cut me off from my work, from my contacts, from my family, from my friends. And the next day they dropped by and give me a list of all the things they seized. It was 19 pages long. You know, as a matter of fact, I've spent the last months writing a book on cybersecurity, as I'm unable to report and work normally under these circumstances. And they even confiscated my book, the book that I've been working on for 2 years now. You know, I just riffled through the manuscripts and the notes like it was nothing. So after watching all of my gear being dismantled, I was then ordered under this warrant to participate in an interrogation. So these agents, they took me down with them to the station, and I said 2 words, no comment. And that was it. Then they fingerprinted me, they palm printed me, they took mugshots and my DNA. And after 6-7 hours of this, I was finally allowed to leave. I categorically deny all of these accusations by the British and Austrian governments. I'm not a terrorist, I am a journalist, and they bloody well know it. Some of these Austrian accusations are very similar to the British ones, which again tells me that this is somehow coordinated. But it's actually a massive escalation. They are accusing me of being a member of a proscribed organization. I mean, this is insanity on another level. This is detached from reality. And they're trying to make a snowball out of nothing.
And if they do it to Richie, then they can do it to you. They can do it to anyone else too. That's the thing. So they couldn't stop him in the UK. So they're like, okay, what else can we do now? Oh, easily. We'll just try to prove that he is a part of Hamas. And since they took his devices, there's no telling what they could put on those devices to try to prove that point. You see what I mean? I mean, that's what cops would do here in the US. When they're trying to get someone, but they don't have enough evidence to get them, they try to set them up. If they think that someone may have done a crime, but they don't have the evidence, I don't know, they may just plant some drugs or plant a weapon. Wouldn't be the first time. That's the other scary part about them having his devices.
So now, because of my reporting, I'm under investigation for quote unquote terrorism in 2 countries. I could face up to 14 years in prison in the UK, plus another 2 to 5 years if I don't give them the passwords to my phones, and maybe another 10 years in prison in Austria, and my residency potentially being revoked. And why? For what? For journalism, because of my reporting. I mean, this is insane. This is disproportionate state violence. And it's not just an attack on me. This is an attack on the entire profession, on freedom of speech, on democracy itself. They are denying me my human right to free speech. I'm being punished and persecuted in my country of origin in the UK and in my country of residence in Austria. I come from a family that worked to establish peace around the world, a family that raised me to stand against terrorism and injustice. Please help raise awareness. This is not just an affront on me, but on all of us. Inform your friends, inform your family, your colleagues, write to your representatives in Parliament. And again, I want to stress how the police, they came in here in this room. They seized all my equipment, all of my gear. They left me with nothing. If you're able to, please consider contributing on GoFundMe and PayPal so that I can get back up and running. The links are down below. It would really make a difference and go a long way.
This is crazy. And I mean, Richie Medhurst has been around for quite some time. I mean, he's not new or whatever. So they're trying to shut the door on investigative journalism, especially those that have been critical about Israel. And I want to bring up something here as well, and I'll get to what Eric posted. If you're thinking about Austria, now one of the questions that people were asking online when he posted this video is that they thought Austria was neutral. Well, Austria is not a part of NATO, but it still collaborates with NATO. This is the part I think some people may not know. Relations with is right on NATO's website, by the way. So relations with Austria. NATO-Austria relations are conducted through the Partnership for Peace framework, with Austria joined in 1995. NATO and Austria actively cooperate in peace support operations and have developed practical cooperation in a range of other areas. So even though Austria is not a part of NATO, they still collaborate with NATO. So just keep this in mind. Again, Richie is he's been very critical about NATO as well. Now, Eric points this out so well under 11 Demands. This is his new Substack article. Eric, my producer, he said, reject censorship. This famous snippet of Noam Chomsky being interviewed by Andrew Marr in 1996 is worth revisiting. Let's go ahead and play this here.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you know that journalists are self-censoring?
I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Yeah, we'll play that again because I didn't have it lined up.
How can you know that I'm self-censoring? How can you
I
know
don't say
that
you're
journalists
self-censoring. I'm sure you believe everything you're saying. But what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting.
Right. So, and obviously, Eric, you can put the link to your Substack article in the chat. I want people to be able to see that and read the article for themselves. I think it's very important that people understand what Noam Chomsky was saying there. It is true, right? Like he's told the gentleman, you probably believe everything that you're saying, but if you didn't, you wouldn't be sitting in that chair. So people like Richie Medhurst, people like the Gray Zone, these investigative journalists that are independent out there doing their own damn thing, and they're not a part of corporate media. They have that freedom to explore other areas that corporate media is not allowed to do. And so ever since, I think, I'm trying to think back to when I feel like they really started cracking down. And part of that might have been during the Russia-Ukraine war. I think that's when they started like, oh, we're going to shut these people down, and then ramped it up after October 7th. It is very important that we continue to have those voices around. And there aren't a lot of them that are around, but we have to make sure that people like Richie and people like the Gray Zone, that all these people like Whitney Webb, Derek, Bros, all of these people get to continue doing what they're doing. Because how else will we get through the propaganda? I think we might do call in tonight, guys. It'll be a short call in because we had quite a bit of stories to discuss. You guys want to do call in tonight? Let me know in the chat. You want to do call in? Let me know. Let me know. We're going to go to the comments and we'll go to the last story. Thank you, Andrew. Candidate quality gets lower and lower. And instead of holding the candidates accountable, the voters who don't settle for less get the backlash instead of the candidates who sold out to the voters to the highest bidder. I agree. Yeah. That's what happens, unfortunately. Ani said, yeah, Ali from Electronic Intifada too. Yep. Anis, Sabby, have you talked about how Trump let the real Palestinian death toll slip out during his announcement? Yes. We talked about that. I think it was a couple of nights ago. Yeah, I had noticed that too. I was like, did everybody hear the number that he just gave? Okay, people do want to do call in. Is that what this is saying? Okay. All right. Well, we got one more story. So let's go ahead and get to that, and we can do call in. Again, the theme tonight is shut the door. Breonna Joy Gray had an interesting conversation here with Marianne Williamson and another gentleman who's a part of Our Revolution. And I got to give it to Brie for holding her own in this conversation, because now there is this discussion about, will the DNC be different, right? Marianne ran for DNC chair. She did not get that position. That position went to Ken, but she supported them giving that position to Ken, even though Ken said they're good billionaires. So one of the things I think that Brie really did in this conversation is she said, why should people continue doing this strategy, right? And she also really heavily pushed back on this rejection of third party or different party politics. Check this out. This is a good conversation. If you guys haven't seen it, I'm not going to show the whole thing, but there is this part that I want to focus on right here.
The problem I have, Brie, also with the third party issue, not that I'm very aware of how important third parties have been in American history. I understand that we would be much better off with a parliamentarian system, although that's not going to happen. I understand the unholy alliance of the duopoly. I understand all that. And this is not a but, it's just an additional factor. People are people. The corruption that we see in the Democratic Party, the corruption that we see in the Republican Party, I'm not naive enough to think there won't still be human beings as part of these third party efforts. That's number one. It's not like they will be lacking in all of the stuff and the stuff that we hate. That's number one. And number two, I'm not sure anybody is really fully taking in the hundreds of millions of dollars that are necessary in order to stage a powerful third party effort. I hope we will. Someone will. I hope so.
Well, Bernie
think also
did.
Those of us who
right?
feel the urgency of this moment. Pardon?
Bernie, pause. So Marianne said that she hopes that someone will be willing to take on that effort. People have been willing to. Jill Stein was running. And during a time when I thought more people should coalesce behind a campaign and a movement that not only had the correct policy when it comes to Israel and Gaza, and was against the genocide and denounced it vehemently outright. You also had a campaign that had a little bit of a further message than Bernie's platform from 2016, 2020. You also had a campaign that had reparations as a part of the platform, which Marianne knows because she had this as a part of her platform as well. You had a campaign that had a Black agenda. I told you guys before, if you're a candidate and you're running, you ain't got an agenda for Black people, you are not getting my vote. I don't give a damn what party you're running through. I don't care if you're running through the Care Bear party. If you don't have a Black agenda, I'm not voting for you. That's just me. And there was that energy. There was that presence. So when Marianne says that, I wish someone, maybe someone would, someone did. Someone did. But you decided to publicly endorse Kamala Harris, who did not have the same response to the genocide that Jill Stein did. I don't understand people coming up with this stuff.
Bernie out fundraised everybody in 2020.
I would have. Listen,
but wait a minute. No, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying, Marianne,
had just gone over. Yeah.
Well, this is what I'm saying. That Bernie out fundraised everybody in 2020. Had this organization, Our Revolution, ready to go, and potentially what people wanted, as you're nodding, and I'm sure you're aware, Marianne, and you're probably aware, Joseph, to flip into being a independent party, to be a political force, not just a sort of organizing force.
Right.
And that didn't happen. And many folks are very frustrated that they felt like the potential of the Bernie organizing machine and fundraising machine was ultimately cowed in subservience to a Democratic Party, which has demonstrated its superior willingness to go after the left than to go after the right. And I see you nodding, Joseph. And it's difficult for me to understand how, in the wake of that reality, many of us believed in an inside strategy. I gave my mid-30s.
Yeah, we do that.
I gave my mid-30s to that strategy and working for Bernie Sanders.
That sounds so funny to a woman my age.
Yeah, well, those are some crucial years, Yeah. And so
just tell me a better strategy and how to execute it, and I'm down. We will move.
Well,
right?
I
but that's the thing. But our leaders, our members have voted on this strategy, and I respect the grassroots.
But no, that comment there where he says, if you tell me another strategy, then I am down. No, you're not down. The strategy that you want is a strategy that goes through the Democratic Party. The strategy that you want, he's a part of our revolution. So the strategy that you want has to be a strategy that goes through the Democratic Party. So you can't just say, you tell me a strategy and I'm down. There have been many strategies that have been brought to the table. But if those strategies don't go through the Democratic Party, they're not down with it. For those who are conservative, and you got to let me know this. I don't know. Damn, maybe I need to have a separate show about this. I want to know, how is it that you guys are able to move forward on the issues that you want? We have not been able to do that on the left. And Brie is right. Many of us tried this internal strategy through the Democratic Party. It is 2025. It has almost been 10 years since 2016. So to that point, I want to know how. I'm sitting back here and I'm a little upset because I see Donald Trump sitting down at the damn table, just signing order after order after order. I mean, like, if I was still waiting tables, he's back there in the kitchen and he's knocking out those orders like that. And in the Democratic Party, they drag their feet. They don't even move towards what we want. So why is it that the Republican Party can move towards what their base wants, but the Democratic Party won't? That's what really frustrates me. And that's why many of us have moved out of that system. Because what I'm a tap dance with you for, bro? If I'm going to the dance with you, hey, you want me to dance with you, but we didn't have dinner first. It's things like this. I just don't get it. And it drives me crazy. But you guys have got to explain that to me, how you're able to do that.
So
has there been an internal conversation, a robust debate about whether our revolution should pivot to
The analysis is like it's too much resource. Look, the gatekeepers, the Republicans, Democrats have set it up such that it's rigged. I mean, people have tried. Even Working Families has tried, right? They have a lot of money, and they have a different theory. And it's incredibly challenging, right? There's been a lot of talk. I came out of the labor movement, more than 2 decades of organizing workers. We've talked about getting a labor party. Again, challenging.
And
I totally think there needs to be a labor party.
It's challenging, for sure.
And
so everyone likes to say,
when unions, which have been wiped out systematically by both Democrats and Republicans, they're the one organization that has the resource to do it, and they think it's incredibly difficult. So
it's incredibly difficult.
But
what's the upside of the current strategy? Are you feeling like the gains and the resources that you're putting toward the Democratic Party are paying off over the last?
Well, I'm saying we're fighting oligarchy and a descent into authoritarian capitalism on multiple fronts.
All the more reason why that should be a separate party. He just proves my point. If you're fighting oligarchy and capitalism on multiple fronts, then maybe you should not be a part of the party that accepts oligarchy and capitalism. I was thinking about this the other day. Many of you who played sports when you were in school, right? Sometimes maybe you could settle for something, right? Like, let's say you wanted to play baseball, but I don't know, your parents were like, no, you're going to play soccer. You still get to play the sport, right? I get it. And then sometimes people play multiple sports. But I think there's a stark difference between no billionaire money, no corruption, progressive policies, a Black agenda, and a right-wing party that is owned by billionaires, owned by AIPAC and J Street, owned by Big Pharma. You don't get anything out of that. Hell, if your parents tell you got to play soccer instead of baseball, you still get to be on the field. For those of us who are to the left of that Democratic Party, we don't even get to be on the field. They don't give us anything. There's no issue that you know what I'm saying? Like, none of it. That's why I say it should be a separate party.
And ultimately
on multiple fronts, meaning we're organizing. We are organizing within the party because in the world as it is, there is really only 2 parties in our democracy, and so we need to do what Donald Trump did. No, but it's on us, sister. We need to do what Donald Trump did. He took over and hijacked the Republican Party. Why can't we do that, Bernie?
Wasn't that the assignment of Justice Democrats to take over the Democratic Party? And this is what Brie is saying. We tried this. It's not just about Bernie Sanders. Yes, Bernie did us dirty, but it's not just him. Congress holds the purse, ladies and gentlemen. Congress writes legislation. The Justice Democrats also did us dirty. That's what that was. Does everybody remember when it was announced it was supposed to be a hostile takeover of the Democratic Party? They didn't do that. They decided to go along with Democrat leadership. So when he says, why didn't we do what Trump did? Because the people who signed up for that project decided not to do it.
We should do that, right?
Do you see how that's, well,
no, I'm saying
Bernie on that.
Bernie has demonstrated a complete and total unwillingness to do that. He's not going to do that. The whole story I just told of our revolution, the post-Bernie campaigns, is that he is fully bought in for whatever reason into working within the Democratic Party and not being adversarial and oppositional, even though I would argue that, yes, unions are maybe the second most or one of the most powerful groups, but the coalition that Bernie had put together, the attention that he had, the energy that he had, 30% of the Democratic Party was with him. He was able to out fundraise everybody with these small dollar donations. And I believe that if he had committed to actually investing that in an oppositional system to the Democratic Party instead of one that worked within it and was subsumed by it, then those people would still be energized and we would not be in this existential crisis that we are in currently today.
Yeah,
I strongly believe that. So to sit here and have this sort of circular argument, though, Joseph, where we say, well, we don't have a third party, but we can't really invest in third parties because it's a lot of effort. And so we don't have a third party.
Here's what I would say.
We have to do within the two parties and we have to take it over, but nobody's going to take it over.
Bring it back to where Marianne is.
So it brings you right back to the drawing board. And I think Brie is correct about this, because the reality is, man, if it was during the 60s and if we were working with the same tools that we have right now, we would still be sitting at the back of the bus. Because I think about all the obstacles that were put in front of civil rights activists. Like, obviously, like that was a mountain to climb. Don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending like civil rights activists just woke up one day and everything was accomplished. No, that took time and they had to fight. And some were killed and some went to jail and some were beaten and they had crosses burned in their yards and their family members were threatened. And on and on. But I'm looking at some of the people that's like, no, we can't move towards a third party or try to start another party because we don't have ranked choice voting. Or we can't do that because we don't have enough money. We don't have this. We don't have that. And I'm thinking back during the time of civil rights activists, they sit around and complain about what they don't have, or did they get shit done? Because we can talk about they didn't have internet. There was no social media. But they managed to get offices with phones and they made flyers and they got the word out. They had boycotts. They had sit-ins. They had the March on Washington. All this done again with no internet. Now we have the internet. We have social media. Almost everybody has a smartphone. What's our excuse? That's the part I don't understand. Now you guys can get out here and you can tell people, you know, our revolution, you can get out here and say, let's raise some money to get this person elected. I watched Kamala Harris raise billions of dollars, but we can't raise money to start a different party. People will sit up there and throw money at streamers who sit there and talk about nothing about elevating your mind or getting your ass out into the streets or doing nothing for the community. And they'll just throw money at them. But we can't raise money to start a party outside this duopoly. We need to start asking about these resources. And then we need to start asking some of these people, like someone like Marianne. Marianne knows the Democratic Party is corrupt. Marianne knows the DNC is corrupt. Why are you still trying to work with the party that wouldn't even let you get on the debate stage? Why are you still trying to be a part of a party that told you there was no primary against Joe Biden, that vehemently ignored you? Why are you still trying to be a part of that? And then you got to look at them people with a side eye too. Because I feel like those people are also holding that opportunity back. Why do you guys think a lot of these people who are quitting corporate media are all announcing, I'm going independent. I'm starting a Substack. I'm going independent. I'm starting a YouTube show. And you can find me there. They are trying to find another way to control the source of information because they realize that a lot of us on YouTube media have been telling something different to people. We're filling in the gap that corporate media is not. So now they're like, let me try to find a way to drown those voices out. And as much as I know there are many people who do want progress, I do feel like a lot of the people who have the resources and have the platforms like Marianne, they are working against that progress to keep you in a system that is working against you. And I don't consider that progress.
Like, we're in the fight, and I ask that you respect the activists who put in the time and energy to following what we believe in this moment. And yeah, is the Democratic Party great? No, it's corrupt, but we should take it over, and we're fighting to do it. If there's a viable third party option, we're down to support it.
No, you got to make this viable third party viable, Joseph. You can't just sit here. Why is there this willing?
And you're not down to support it. He's like, if there's a viable third party option, we're down to support it. No, you're not down to support it. The most viable third party option is the Green Party. They're the ones that get the most ballot access. Jill Stein was on the ballot in over 40 something states. Was our revolution down to support that? No. Where were you, Joe? You weren't around. They've never been down and trying to support these third party efforts. They've been down with helping whoever the Democrat nominee becomes. What a mess.
To make the Democratic Party viable.
I mean, we're trying to do this, right? We are fighting to elect people. We have critiqued Biden. We have critiqued Harris. We are speaking truth to power, but we get marginalized. But we don't give up, right? I mean, having led the fight for 15, we changed the narrative by putting workers in the street. We changed, right? We got unions finally came back into relationship with the White House because we put people in the streets, right? First term, I was sitting in there talking with the White House staff saying, you need to do this for workers. And they were like, no se puede. Every conversation, whether it's White House counsel, the political office, right? The vice president at the time, Obama, right? No se puede, no se puede. And so we had to make them do it. And are we in a perfect universe? No, but we've moved the dial. We created the conditions precedent for Bernie to be a progressive rock star. We created that window. Same thing with Keith Ellison, right? These were the people who walked.
Oh God, not Keith Ellison. Yeah, you made him a rock star and then he walked off the stage.
Strike. They were not, nobody knew who they were in 2013. Right.
And where are those?
So what I'm saying is like, this is a movement
where are they both
in progress, and we have to struggle to get there.
But Joseph, what is your theory of the case for why Bernie Sanders ended up lobbying hard for Joe Biden to stay in the race? And the last week of his campaign or so, when all of these Democratic Party insiders, Nancy Pelosi, the Pod Save Bros, were all clamoring for him to get out. How do you get to a place where Bernie Sanders was the vanguard, Keith Ellison was the vanguard, to Keith Ellison spending all of his energy seemingly on Twitter in the weeks leading up to the election, punching at Jill Stein for some reason?
Yep.
What is happening within the Democratic Party?
We polled our members and we said immediately that Joe Biden should step aside. So, I don't want to speak for the thought process of everyone else, but we led.
Well, I'm not asking you to speak for their thought process, Joseph, but I am asking for your theory of the case. What's your analytical assessment of what's going on with the Democratic Party and the leaders that at one time were on its left vanguard being the most committed devotees to Joe Biden, despite Joe Biden showing the most disrespect to some of the issues and constituencies that determine the outcome of the election, including Muslim voters, including labor leaders. I haven't forgotten the strike.
We're in a brand new world after January 20th. And
I'm not talking about after January 20th, Joseph.
No. We have a different
about why
power, and I think people are going to change.
But Joseph, I want to maybe I should explain why I'm asking this question. But wait a minute, Marianne. I'll come to you in a second, Marianne.
That is a foundational piece.
This is important, Joseph.
And in this moment, there's a realignment happening.
This is important, Joseph. If you want people to keep doing what they've already seen has failed, right? If you want people to say, let's take one more bite at the apple. No, this time around, we really can influence the Democratic Party. If you want people to invest in that project, I think you need to state a theory of the case for why it went wrong. Wait a minute.
No. First theory is
let me finish the sentence because that wasn't my question. With all due respect, Joseph,
we took them
out. Let me finish the sentence, Joseph, because with all due respect, that wasn't my question. I need you to set up a theory. No, I was just saying Ben Wickler. Sorry, I missed. Sorry, I was like, at me. No, of course not. No, you need to set up a theory of the case for why the best of us, the people who founded your own organization, seem to be the most committed to protecting Joe Biden, the person at the root of why we're in this situation to begin with. And the reason that you have to set out that theory of the case is because if you're expecting us to go down this road again and get behind new progressives and get behind new people who seem like they're promising, you have to have an explanation for why, what corrupting influences exist, what pressures exist. What are they going to do differently? What are they going to be able to accomplish that Bernie Sanders wasn't able to accomplish, or that Keith Ellison wasn't able to accomplish? Do you see what I'm saying?
Look, whatever you think about Joe Biden, he did much more, and I had a front row seat under the Obama Biden.
So in other words, Joseph does not have an explanation. Joseph is not going to be able to make the case for what he is trying to do. Okay, this whole, well, Joe Biden accomplished much more than Joe Biden did not accomplish the progressive mission. So to come up with all this kind of stuff just to save your booty is not going to work. So the reality is he doesn't have an answer for that question. I want to fast forward a little bit here because there's something else that Marianne chimes in to say that I think people need to hear. So check this out. Let me come out a little bit.
Working class union movement. FDR did that, and then that enabled, right, all of the progressive legislation we had through the 60s. It was...
Stop bringing up FDR. And this is another reason that there needs to be another party. And I've said this time and time again. Progressives, stop saying FDR did da-da-da-da-da. FDR left out a lot of fucking people. When you make up this, well, FDR was so progressive, and you keep pushing that, you are omitting the fact that he left out Black people and he left out indigenous people too. Stop saying FDR. FDR should have, that's the minimum. The ceiling is here. So stop bringing this guy up. I'm so sick and tired of hearing this guy's name, okay? Stop bringing up all these dead people. And get to the point of what needs to be done. Because what FDR did was not enough for everybody. You're talking about redlining under FDR. You're talking about the New Deal, which did not benefit greatly Black people or indigenous people. Some people don't like to hear this when they want to focus on a class-only analysis, but the data doesn't lie. You're talking about Black people being locked out of home ownership. The banks went against the communities that were redlined. So if you were redlined, you were not getting a loan. So stop bringing up FDR. I'm so sick of hearing about this man. You guys tell him, stop bringing this guy up. I'm tired of hearing about FDR. Come back to me when you start saying Fred Hampton. Come back to me when you start saying, I don't know, Malcolm X. They did this. Fred Hampton did that. Stop bringing up this old dude who is no longer around, who shit on Black people and indigenous people. Stop. Now, moving forward to the part that Marianne says, because I do want you guys to hear this part about, she says, what will happen if it's not accomplished.
The corruption, it has to do with the DNC. It's a racket, or it's been a racket. I am totally open to it being different now. It has been a total racket. Hundreds of millions of dollars that are raised, shared by a small group of people in D.C. and their K Street consultancy firms, giving little pittance. You know, when I was first running, I was shown the document that had to do with the negotiations that the DNC went through with the state parties. And it was considered a win because the state parties were given more money. I looked at the document because before the meeting, I was told, please read the document so that you can report on it. I read the document and I thought maybe there was a typo. So I went to my calculator and then I thought, oh, maybe my calculator's broken. And then I went back to the document and I thought, whoa, these people were celebrating getting $2,500 more a month. They were celebrating a $2 million given over the next couple of years for the Red State Fund. When you're talking about opposition that is funded by billions of dollars by billionaires on the extreme right. So what happened there, Brie, is really quite simple. The people who were in charge of all that money at the DNC were going to keep their contracts and keep their money whether Trump won or not. And that was what really went on. And I was very clear during my own campaign, these people would rather see Trump win than let someone like me be the nominee. Pure, adulterated corruption. Now,
what does that tell you, though? If they would rather see the Republican candidate win, what does that tell you?
On the other side has to do with Nancy and so forth. And that just has to do with this unbelievable arrogance, entitlement, sense of everything that our founders did not want. A political ruling class who feel that they are the only ones qualified. It's the left wing, or they're not even leftists, none of us can really say, but the Democratic elite who formed a kind of aristocracy of their own and who had the audacity during these campaigns to say, because Donald Trump is such a threat to democracy, we have the right to basically to suspend democracy in our own house. These people thought they were so smart, and they looked at anyone who wasn't a member of their own club as unqualified. But really, what qualified meant to them was qualified to perpetuate the machine as they run it. Now, they have been thrown back on their heels. They have not been defeated. The fact that Ben Wickler did not win is not their defeat. It means they're going to have to get back and now they'll put on, I'm sure, a full-on charm assault on Ken when he comes to Washington. And I just hope all of us will be loud about what's really true when that begins to happen. I know if that happens, and I know I'm out. But that's the answer to your question. Elitism, arrogance, entitlement, anti-democratic action, and pure corruption. And when JFK said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. If we don't get this right,
that's right,
there will be revolution in the streets. And so I think all three of us can agree, whatever we can do to forestall that catastrophic consequence.
But it's already and that was the part I really wanted you to hear. She said, if we don't get this right, there will be revolution in the streets. I'm not sure I believe that the Democratic Party doesn't want there to be revolution in the streets. Sometimes people may see chaos as a plus. But the reality is, this is why some people say it's revolution or nothing at all. Now, I don't call for violence on this platform, of course, but this is why some people say that. Because they feel like it's the only thing that's going to make them listen. When you talk about Luigi Mangione, how long we've been talking about the healthcare system? Everyone stopped and paid attention after Luigi Mangione, who is still accused, by the way, has not been found guilty. But everyone stopped and paid attention. It's almost like, I don't know, maybe people should have been paying attention before that. Because it's going to get to a point, you see it now. You see it happening with people now. The homeless rate continues to increase. These politicians continue to get richer and richer and richer, not helping the communities that they represent, instead helping their donors, and they enrich their pockets. Now, what I heard from Marianne and Joe is, you just got to keep trying, and we're trying to do this and we're trying to do that. But I want to remind you of something that James Baldwin said. This is something that my grandmother showed me a long time ago about what James Baldwin said about progress. Because listening to them, it'll be 10 years from now and they'll still be saying the same thing. Listen to what James Baldwin said about progress.
What is it you wanted me to reconcile myself to? I was born here almost 60 years ago. I'm not going to live another 60 years. You always told me it takes time. It has taken my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brother's and my sister's time, my nieces and my nephews' time. How much time do you want for your progress?
How much time do they want for the progress? So when we talk about shutting the door, if you have not done so already, you got to shut the door on this mess, man. You really do. If the Democratic Party wanted to do something different, they would have done it by now. The same way that people say Donald Trump went in and changed the Republican Party, Bernie Sanders could have done that same thing, but he wouldn't. And I don't think anyone will. I think these people are just very corrupt. I think they like taking the money that they get. And I don't think they really want any type of change. As much as I despise a lot of Trump's policies, it looks like Donald Trump did want to change some things, and he was able to do that. We don't have that on the other side. We just don't. We don't have. The only way you have that is outside of the duopoly. So they're talking about a democracy. How are you going to talk about having a democracy when Marianne, they wouldn't even let you get on the debate stage? They wouldn't even let you entertain a real primary against Joe Biden. How are you going to talk about democracy? How are you going to talk about democracy when they pretend like third party candidates don't exist? That's not a democracy. So you can criticize the oligarchy, but if you're still willing to go into the lion's den and play footsie with that same oligarchy, are you really trying to champion for some type of real change? I would say no. I think you're taking the typical liberal position, which is, let's see if we can get a couple reforms. Reforms don't cure homelessness. Reforms will not fix the education system, K through 12 in this country, which sucks. Reforms will not fix poverty. The entire system is deeply corrupt. And until there is a huge reckoning within that party to vehemently push back against corporate money and refuse to take corporate money, none of that is going to change. So when people say, well, Sabby, why you voted for Bernie? Why don't you give the Democrats still a chance? Because I'm getting older. I'm not getting younger. And all of my life, I have not seen this party really do anything that helps the Black community. I don't really see them doing nothing to help the indigenous community. I don't see them doing the people that they need in order to win. They are not trying to help. They just use us as pawns. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm tired of being used. That's why. So I shut the door. So I was not going to support Kamala. My big wake-up call was Barack Obama. After Obama, I was like, fuck this, man. Because if he wasn't willing to do it, I should have given up then. Bernie came around and I said, well, he's independent, but he's running through the Dems, but he's independent. I was willing to give Bernie a chance, but I should have stopped after Obama. Because they just insert a new player on the board to play different games here and there. But in the end, they're still playing for the oligarchy, the establishment, the billionaire class. That's who they're still playing for. They're not playing for you. And the sooner you understand that they're not playing for you, the sooner it'll be easier for you to understand why shit don't get done. I think we are going to do call in, ladies. Yeah, we're going to do call in. Yeah, we're going to do a quick call in. Eric, I think you want to show the poll. And I think there's a couple of comments we can go through. I'll take a quick break and I'll be right back. And yeah, don't forget the poll, Eric.
All right. Thanks for reminding me. Yeah, we set up the polls and then we forget them. Here, let me swap that around a little bit. Let me find the poll. It's around here somewhere. Yeah, so this is when we give Sabby a little break, and then we'll be transitioning. She's going to set up the Zoom hangout that we refer to as call-in, where you can get into the Zoom hangout and tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. But let's take a look at that poll. The poll question was, do you believe the DNC will change for the better? And that's with 1,618 votes. We have 3% saying yes if a progressive leads. We had no saying the donors won't let it happen, coming in at 82%. I think we have a clear winner there. We have maybe, but it will be tough, coming in at 7%. And 8% of people said, I have no idea. So clearly, yeah, no, the donors won't let it happen, which I would also like classify as the correct answer. Yeah, I mean, we have the situations where, I think where we need to get to is, the realization that both parties are the same. It's a uniparty. They're both working for the same donor owners. I think it's really important to view these things in terms of interests. There are the interests of that billionaire class that both of these parties are serving, and they're not serving our interest. There was during the combo, there was during Oh yeah, Sabrina was asking like why do the Tea Party and the Republican base get like what they want, but the Democratic base never gets what they want? And my answer would be it's because those people are basically have been fooled into thinking that it's basically like they've aligned their interests to the money interest, to the billionaire interests. And so as long as they're doing that, then yeah, it looks like they're getting what they want, but they're really just being fooled into advocating for what the donor owners want, is what I think why you see the Republican quote unquote base getting what they get. But anyways, let's check out. We have some comments queued up here. Let's see what we got. Thanks for the super chat. BS Need saying Kamala's husband is her APAC handler. Yeah, that maybe was in both in both aspects of it. And thanks for this one, Philip Blair, who says because the Republicans don't have super delegates. I think talking about kind of what the differences are. And also, thanks for the super chat, Philip. Never trust a Pfizer Democrat or Pfizercrat. Yeah, and both parties love Pfizer. Both parties are representing big pharma, big oil, military industrial complex. Even Silicon Valley. They're really all representing those interests. Thanks for the super chat, John McKinney, who says, what do you think of Stephen A. Smith thinking of running for president? Do you think he means it or is joking? Interesting. You can hop into the Zoom Hangout and ask that one too, John. And thanks for the super chat, Anais, who says, Sabby, have you seen Trump let the real death toll slip during his announcement? He said 1.8 million Palestinians left in Gaza. Their population in 2023 was over 2 million. Yeah, those numbers are really hard to wrap your head around. And yeah, it really does look like we're into the hundreds of thousands that have been killed. It's really, like I said, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Thanks for this super chat, John. I just read that one. Thanks for this super chat, Carl. He says the Democrats will never change, so Marianne Williamson, Bernie, and AOC are wasting their time. Don't start a new party, join the Green Party, and vote all these MFers out. Yeah, it's a plausible plan. The main thing I would say is start with demands. Is where I think we should really be starting with. And thanks for this one, Kenman, who says Marianne sounds like Catherine Hepburn had a stroke. All right. And we got some things out here on the Rockvins. Let me see if I can bring those up and catch those. Here they are. All right. Thanks for this tip comment on Rockvin. JVB, who says, thanks, Sabby, on target as always. And thanks for this tip comment on the Rockvin. Stephanie Caro says, thanks, Sabby, for another great show. Thanks for highlighting what Richard Medhurst is going through. And thanks for your enlightening interview with Keith McHenry of Food Not Bombs. I hope to find a chapter in my area. And thanks for this one as well, Stephanie. Sabby, what you're saying reminds me of W.E.B. Du Bois' essay in The Nation magazine in 1956 called Why I Won't Vote. He wrote back then that the Dems do nothing for Black people. He also wrote of the two parties that there are no two evils. There's one evil with two heads. Yeah, that's pretty spot on, I would say. And the one other thing I wanted to highlight, Sabrina mentioned it, was there is the new 11 Demands Substack that I invite all you to check out, read, and join. It's really easy to find in general. If you just look at, if you go to 11demands.org, it comes right up there. Let me bring up, here it is. Yeah, so this was the most recent post, and Sabby hit it during the show, but it's about reject censorship. It starts with the Noam Chomsky interview in which he says, what I'm saying is if you believe something different, you wouldn't be sitting where you're sitting. And the post gets into how the corporate establishment, it basically makes it so the compliant journalists do well, the dissidents get pushed out. And it gets into, if you look on the 11 demands, a key one in there is reject censorship, protecting freedom of speech, ending the prosecution and persecution of the whistleblowers and journalists. And the big thing, I'll just end with what I end on here, nothing really gets better until we fix the big money and corruption in our politics and government. And it starts with demands. It gets real when we can inspire millions of people to get on the same page and not settle for less. 11 demands, spread the word. And yeah, like I said, check it out at 11 demands. Clear this off. And there you have it. Get demanding.
All right, so we are going to jump into call in. If you look at the top of the chat, that link is pinned at the very top there. I'm going to go ahead and open it while I'm on the screen. I always like to do that when I'm on the show to make sure that people can get into the call in room, which we haven't had a problem with that before in the past anyway. So I see people already getting in. I ask that you mute your mic when you join. If you want to speak, you raise your hand on call in. You raise your hand by going to the bottom of the screen. There's an option to raise hand, and that's how I know that you want to speak. So all the people who are used to doing this, they're familiar. Another way that you can join call in as well is just go to this link here, sabbysabs2.com. Yeah, sabbysabs2.com. And you'll be able to get the link and the passcode. But I don't think it's asking people for the passcode because people are already joining into the Zoom. So it seems to be doing just well. And I will see you guys over there. Again, the link is pinned to the top of the chat, or you can get it at sabbysabs2.com. And Eric, I'll wait for you to join so I can go ahead and make you a co-host.
All right. sabbysabs2.com. Should be live now. Let me see if I can get in that way.
And I hope everybody has had, has a great weekend. We do have the Super Bowl coming up.
Something happening this weekend?
Again, I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles this time around because, like I said, I don't know. I want someone else to win. Someone else to win sometime.
All right. I am in there and we'll see you in the hangout.
All right. I'll go ahead and make you a co-host. You go to here. All right. Eric is now a co-host. All right, guys. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl or whatever you plan to do. Have a good night and keep up the fight.